Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
We've got a fabulous show. You'll be so pleased you've turned on because this show is all about perhaps something you've been meaning to do for ages, but you just keep putting it off. And it's something I don't think you realise is so important, and that is actually writing a will. Because if you haven't written a will, sadly, right out there for you, there is a will that's written for you by the government, and it won't be the will that you want.
What we're bringing you tonight directly with experts in the field, Simpler Law join us on the show tonight to bring you the opportunity to write a will, but also lasting powers of attorney. If you've been hearing that term and wondering what it's about, well, we're going to talk you all through that tonight. It's a great show to find all the details that you need to know about wills and lasting powers of attorney. And the offers we've got, well, they're fabulous, and they weren't
meant to be. We'll be absolutely honest. The last show that we did, we were lucky enough to get 10% off. It was a one-off show. It was never meant to come back. But we know a lot of people did actually miss out on the opportunity of it. Got in touch after the final date, because you do have a final time for this deal. And so they very kindly have allowed us for that extra 10% off again for this show. But whether we will ever see this again, I would be very, very surprised. So you've got up until Monday evening at 5 o'clock to actually go for this. But the best thing is, because over the weekend the phone lines will be closed, you're better just to do it now, because these prices are incredible. Because you'd think writing a will or lasting power of attorney would be so expensive, and it really isn't.
No, you'd think hundreds of pounds. A suggested retail price of £209. Well, our normal price, our normal offer at £99 is great, but it comes down to £89. If you don't want to spend all that today, you've got the offer of 4 interest-free payments with Simpler Law, £22.25 on your first of 4 payments for your will. Now, we did mention lasting power of attorney. If you're not quite sure what that is, we'll explain that as we go through the show. A suggested retail price of £349 comes down to £179 with that extra 10% off, and with those 4 interest-free payments, £44.75 on your first of 4 payments.
I mean, those payments make it so affordable, don't they? Whether you're going for the will, £22.25, you spend that on coffee, £44.75, you spend that on a takeaway. And actually, I know lots of you, and don't worry, as long as you secure the deals tonight, if you think, well, actually, I'm going to go for the will, and then after you've watched a little while, think, I really should have done the will and lasting power of attorney, I know they will allow you to change to that if you wish, because you've got a massive saving. As you can see, there should be £558, down to normally £269. But you have, and it shouldn't be, but you have an extra 10% off, so down to £242 tonight. And again, you can split that cost to those 4 payments of £60.50. Now, the first 250 people, and we do struggle with this book, and you can buy this book, but honestly, don't do that, because if you are the first 250 people, you have the opportunity to get this book as a complimentary book, a gift, I should say. And my goodness, this is a book I think everybody should have.
Well, this is where you can record everything, not just things like your pensions and life plans and council tax and utilities. All your digital accounts can be recorded.
It's all the information people will need.
All your
and
passwords,
it's that peace of mind that passwords are vital, because so much now is on our phones and on our tablets. It might even just be photographs, and all of a sudden you can't get that information because you don't know the password. It's all in that book. You start hunting for all these pieces of paper and these letters, but it isn't letters now. Lots of it is, of course, on emails. It's all on your phone. So that book is vital, and the first 250 people will get that book complimentary. So easy to get in contact, and the best ways you're seeing on your screen right now. I always say take a photograph of that. If you want to go via the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. The phone lines now, they are manned right now, right through to 3 a.m. The team are amazing. If you've got a couple of questions, that's absolutely fine. But it is just to actually make sure that you secure these deals. So what you'll actually find is all they need to know is your name, your phone number, and they'll get back in contact to sort out a date that's right for you. So 0333 600 2600.
But the most popular way when we do these evening shows is the texting service. If you text the word will to 66777, the team will get back to you about after 11 o'clock tomorrow. Well, today, really, after 11 o'clock this morning. So you'll get that contact back, and you'll secure secure the deal so you can take advantage of these fabulous offers. If you don't want to use those ways and you're used to using our website, you can go directly to shopontv.co.uk, scroll down, and there you will see our on-screen partners. Click on Simpler Law, the offers are there, and then it's a very simple form.
I love this form. I can fill all this in, my name, my phone number, my email, and what you've done is you've secured these prices. These prices will go back up, and remember, you've got that extra 10% that shouldn't have been. You really have switched on at the right time. They will all go up on Monday night at 5 p.m, but you know, if you don't do it right now, you'll forget, won't you? And all of a sudden it'll be next weekend, and you thought, oh gosh,
everything gets in the way.
I didn't do the will. And perhaps you've been trying to do a will for years. We didn't realise how important a will was. We've been together 34 years. And just presumed, obviously we've lived together and, you know, our properties together, that if one of us passed, all of that was mine would be Sean's, all that Sean's would be mine. And that wouldn't be the case, because sadly, if you haven't written a legal will, there is a government will out there, which I don't think would work for anybody at all.
It's a legally binding document that you need. So if you've been thinking about writing a will, this is taking that first step.
It's so easy.
Such an affordable price.
So affordable, and we've got a great team for you to actually work alongside with as well. Don't forget, we have got that very posh QR code.
Yeah, if you want to scan the QR code on your screen, that'll take you straight through to the offers page. Let's meet the experts who we've been talking about from Simple Law, who join us for the show. Ian and Charlotte are here again. Lovely to see you.
Nice to see you. The 10% is back. It wasn't meant to be.
Well, we've got our CEO to thank for that.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
Good man.
yeah, but you're right. We had such it was a fantastic uptake last time. But yeah, people did exactly what you said they would do. We won't mention the holiday that Hayley missed. And so there was lots of people who were disappointed by it. So we did say we'd do it, but genuinely this will be the last time.
So this is it. This is your last opportunity.
No plans. So if this may be, this might not be the first time you've seen this show. I'm a fan of the planets aligning. If you're still watching this show now, now's the time. Making a will is probably one of the most selfless things you can actually do.
Yeah.
It's really, really selfless, but you'll definitely get something out of it. But it's effectively your last gift on planet Earth.
Yeah, it is.
And, we see every single day people that have passed away that have planned and people that have passed away that haven't. And I promise you, your family will want to be the family that their loved one passed away having planned something. It's not morbid, it's not complicated, but it's a really, really brilliant thing that you're doing.
Tell us why it is so important that you do legally write a proper will, because if we don't, there is something out there, isn't there, that will take place of that.
Straight off the bat, you hit the nail on the head by saying that if you don't make your own will, and I think this is where there's a lack of information generally, if you don't make your own will, there is an existing will out there for everybody in the UK. It's called the Rules of Intestacy, and this is a set of rules that was put in place in 1925 that can't possibly meet everyone's requirements. But if you think about it logically, there has to be a default position if you haven't made your own will.
Yeah, there has to be something, doesn't there?
And what we hear quite a lot, Charlotte more than me, because it's Charlotte's team that deal with our lovely clients, is people have been told by someone in the pub or a friend that everything will be okay, and you yourselves admitted that. You just assume that everything's going to be okay.
We'd be like common law.
We thought we would.
Wife and husband, you'd think you would be entitled to each other's.
That's right, yeah. And the reason we do these shows is to try and get that information out to people so they can make an informed decision, because I think there's millions of people literally out there who aren't making an informed decision, and by that I think they just assume that everything's going to be okay. But if they take a second and think, why do I assume that? Who told me it was going to be okay? Don't trust that it will be. Obviously we want you as a client, but please give us a call, send us a text, because if it turns out that it's not right for you or there's something that we do that you don't like, there's no risk with this because it's a money back guarantee. If you don't like anything that we say or do, we'll only produce a document for you when you're 100% happy. So you've absolutely nothing to lose by doing this and everything to gain. But if I'm really honest, it's your loved ones in your family that are going to gain.
Of course they
As an example, because I think, obviously Sean and myself, we're not married, but even if you were married, because the government will is 100 years old.
Yeah, they should.
So we have a lot of people now that have remarried, they've got children from different families. As an example, what would happen if a married couple had children from different families, saw themselves as a family, but one of them died, it still wouldn't work for them, would it?
No, it sounds quite melodramatic, but the rules can actually, well, they do, they rip that family apart. And it's usually quite often only discovered after the second parent's passed away. So forgive the finger puppets, but it's not unusual for us to meet clients that are on the second marriage or even the third marriage. And it's also not unusual for those people to have had children from previous relationships, like you've just explained. So if you've got Mr. and Mrs., under the rules of intestacy, if Mr. passed away and everything went to his spouse because it's under a certain level, because believe it or not, even married couples aren't guaranteed to get everything under the government will. But
There's a limit, isn't there? Yeah.
But so Mr. passes away, everything goes to Mrs. Mrs. then thinks that everything's going to go to her daughter and her husband's daughter, her stepdaughter. But when she dies, it only follows her bloodline and only goes to her daughter. So Mr.'s daughter, if you like, is completely disinherited. And sometimes I hear people say, oh, well, I'm sure my children will look after each other. But it's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on your children. And you don't know what their personal situation is, or you, dare I say, you don't know what reaction they're going to have from their own husband or partner.
Yeah. Everything's heightened, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sorry, Sean, it's one of the biggest reasons for a breakdown in family relationships is a bereavement where someone hasn't planned. So that's why I say it's really
You're
selfless.
already going through an absolute terrible time. Yeah. And it may be that you've sat down with your family and you've discussed what you wanted to happen, and then all of a sudden it's not happening. So perhaps, you know, perhaps your mum and dad had promised you something, you know, an heirloom, and now all of a sudden that it's not going to you. Or perhaps there's a member of the family that's been away from the family and you haven't spoken to them for years, and really they're not perhaps entitled to anything. All of a sudden it's going to be shared between.
It sounds really cheesy, but perhaps one of the most valuable texts you could ever send in your entire life is just texting the word will to 66777 tonight. Because no one ever regrets making a will. No one. There's nothing to regret about putting your affairs in order. And as you know, you'll get to speak to Charlotte, and I will shut up and let Charlotte speak in a second. But it's Charlotte and her team that'll help you go through this whole process. It's not difficult, it's not complicated, and some people actually don't want to do it because they think it might be, you know, quite upsetting, and it's actually genuinely the opposite of that.
It's a little bit scary because it's a legal document.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah,
but
it can be daunting.
And we were lucky enough to go through the process with Hayley's mum before we even knew we were going to work with you guys.
And you made it so easy. Me and my mum are petrified of everything. and as soon as you say law, I know I'll ask the wrong question, I won't understand. You made everything so simple. We actually didn't need to know anything because it's just a simple conversation like this, and you get all the information that you need from us from just a chat, really.
Yeah, well, you've got all the answers. It's just a case of us asking the right questions. And like you said, I think a lot of clients can think it's going to be quite daunting, but actually a lot of the clients that we speak to, it's a weight lifted, and you might actually have a little bit of fun with us because you know, we talk about your life, your family, and it's a really nice conversation at the comfort of your own home, cup of tea in bed if you really want to while you're talking to us. Right. So yeah, I think a lot of clients, it's that weight lifted, which we hear a lot from our clients at the end of the consultation.
Yeah, you don't have to go into an office. It's at your comfort, your speed.
Yeah, you don't need to have anything with you. We'll do all of the work for you. All you need to do is have the intention today to want to do something good.
So if anyone's getting in contact right now, they don't need any information, they don't need to know anything really apart from they want to write a will.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll lead you through the whole process.
And it is, I mean, I think a lot of people out there will think, well, I don't need a will. Everybody needs a will, don't they?
Everybody needs a will. Yeah, definitely. We've never written a will that's followed the rules of intestacy or the government.
We'll have a look at that because when you actually see that, you know, in front of you, it's all to do with bloodline, isn't it? And I don't see that would work for anybody now or ever.
It all starts with the marital state of the person that's passed away.
Okay.
And this is another sort of thing that we hear quite often is people will say, well, we're common law husband and wife. Or I've heard people say, well, we've been together for 2 years now, so we've got certain rights. And again, I'm not being awful, but it's like, well, who's told you this? Because none of that is true. You're either married and in a civil partnership or you're not. There is no sort of grey area. There's no sort of in between. You're either married or you're not married. Yeah. And that's the first question that's asked of the deceased. And then you're quite right. It's then all about your bloodline. The interesting thing, I say interesting, but it's probably quite difficult to read that flow chart on the screen. But that flow chart doesn't care about you or your family. It doesn't know you or your family. Whereas when you make a will with someone like Charlotte, it's your will, it's your loved ones, it's your family, it's personal because it's yours. Every time we write a document, it's bespoke. It's individual every time.
It's what you want.
It's unique. Your will be different to mine, will be different to Charlotte's, be different to everyone that's watching this morning. But that's why it's so important, because it should be yours, not a set of rules that's meant to capture everyone else. There's only 4 of us in the studio now. It wouldn't work for any of us.
No.
You stretch it out across the...
Even back 100 years ago, I don't think it would be right. And obviously then you did get married and you stayed together and you had 2 children. Now life is so different.
Well,
and that's not going to work for anybody.
Children, if it's not written down, your plans, what you want to happen when you pass, if it's not written down, it won't happen. It'll go along with that rules of intestacy.
And I just know, and we don't know what's around the corner, and you know, never say never, do this right now, because if something did happen, and I don't know what happens after we pass, but if you're looking down and you're watching your family fall apart because they knew what you wanted, and they knew perhaps someone wasn't entitled to something, they knew exactly what you wanted, but sadly, because you didn't write a proper will, that's not happening. It can tear families apart, and you'd be absolutely devastated, especially when, honestly, it's so simple. Anything to do with the law frightens me to death. You know, if there's a police car behind me, I'm guilty. We had it on the way in tonight. I'm like, oh, what have I done? And I know I haven't done.
An ambulance.
And yeah, that's it. It was just flashing lights. But I'm just worried about everything. But honestly, simpler law make it so easy. They make you feel so at home.
It's that hand-holding process. They literally...
It's a conversation. Yeah. And you don't need to know anything apart from you need to write that will. And when you look at the Trustpilot reviews, the lovely thing is very few people say simpler law. They actually talk about the individual person they spoke to, because you become friends. The deals are phenomenal tonight, but they are extra special deals with that extra 10% off. So please take a look at the screen right now. If you were thinking a will was going to be really expensive, even at full price, actually, I thought it'd be hundreds of pounds. So at £209, it's still a good price. But our regular price now is £99, but you have got that extra 10% off. But you need to register. You need to do this right now to get it down to £89. Yes.
Time limited till close of business on Monday. And if you want to be one of the first 250 people to get that What My Family Should Know book, that's why we urge you to do it.
And I think you forget, don't you? I did it with flights. I'll mention those through the throw. £600 had gone up just because I forgot the offer ran out on the 1st of October. Sorry, so don't miss out on the opportunity to get this price. And all you're doing is securing the deal tonight, and you split that over 4 payments, £22.25. It's such little cost for something that could be completely life-changing for your family. Absolute peace of mind.
It really is. We're going to talk about lasting powers of attorney in a moment. Suggested retail price of $349. Our usual discounted price $199, but down to $179 with that extra 10% off. And if you want to split the cost, $44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments that are offered to you. The best and biggest saving, if you want to go for a will and a lasting power of attorney, should be $558. It's down to £242. Better than half price if you're going for both.
That's a massive saving, isn't it?
£60.50 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. For us, that's not even a tank of petrol, is it?
No. And don't panic if you actually say tonight, oh, I'm going to do the will, I want to do the will, and then as you watch the show, you think, oh gosh, should have done the lasting power of attorney. Perhaps you didn't realise what it was, and now you're thinking, I should have done the 2. I know the team will happily change you to that deal. What you just need to do tonight is register, either on the phones or the website, or just text. Text is the easiest way. Sometimes, I know we talk a lot on telly, but when we're at home, we don't really want to talk to anybody. We argue who's going to answer the door or answer the phone, because we're like, I don't want to do.
Not even to each other, really.
So if you don't want to speak to anybody right now, just text Will to 66777. That's your deal secured. That's you going for that book as well. It's all sorted by texting Will, and then someone will get back to you later on today, or possibly into what day is it today? Is it Friday now?
It's Friday.
Oh gosh, or possibly into Monday. Because we do get very busy with the texts. But you can jump on the phones, and of course you can go via the website.
Yeah, the team are there right through till 3 a.m.
And they're a great team.
Yeah, fabulous. 0333 600 2600 if you do want to call. And again, you don't need any documentation. It's just about securing those offers. If you want to go through our website, you can do that as well. shopontv.co.uk. Just scroll down until you see our on-screen partners. Click on Simpler Law, and it's as simple as that. Just fill in that little form that you see
And
there.
again, you've secured the deal deal. Your book's secure, and you've done it so easy without even speaking to anybody. But the team are fantastic if you want to jump onto the phones. But we keep mentioning lasting power of attorney, and I know for us, we only learnt about it. Often you hear about it through a bad situation where things have gone wrong, and people saying, "Oh, wish we'd got the lasting power of attorney."
Yeah.
And we discovered it for your mum first of all, and then realised how important it was, and did it for my mum via simpler law without even realising we'd ever work with them like we are now. And it was just a hand holding. They made it so easy. But what we should let you know is what a lasting power of attorney is.
Explain what it is. So Charlotte, for anyone who's out there who's perhaps heard the term but doesn't know what it is, can you explain what a lasting power of attorney is?
Yes, so these are documents where you can nominate who you trust to make decisions for you if you're unable to do so for yourself. So you could have had an accident, it could be ill health, dementia's quite a big prevalent one at the moment. But anything where you're unable to make your own choices, these documents allow you to nominate who that person or people will be to do that for you. So they essentially step into your shoes and become you, and they're your voice.
Because a bit like wills, I think, I always thought, you know, I look after mum. Now everybody knows I love my mum dearly. I'd look after and do everything right by her. But I actually couldn't touch any of her financial affairs at all, could I, if she...
Not without the lasting powers of attorney, no. So at that point, the only route you can do is applying to what's called the Court of Protection for a deputyship, which is a very long and drawn-out process, and it can take a long time and cost a lot of money, whereas if you'd originally just put the powers of attorney in place, that person can just take that document to the bank and become you at that point. You've got to think at the moment, if you try to contact your mum's bank, for example, the first thing they're going to say is, are you the account holder?
So true.
And if you say no, that's it. It's data protection.
We actually went into the bank the other day. I was with mum, and because she didn't have any proof of who she was, she couldn't do anything.
Exactly.
So we were both stood there. So, it's so true. You presume that you would be able to sort all of that out.
Yeah,
so
everyone knows that for you, but
it's not the case at all, is it?
No.
And with lasting power of attorney, there's two different types.
There's two documents, yes. You've mentioned already that there's the property and financial affairs. This one is pretty much as it states, anything from a financial point of view. So whoever you've nominated can go to the bank, access your accounts, pay your bills, claim pensions, benefits, if you're receiving any of those. With regards to property, they can manage your property, so it needs to be sold. Great. If you've got rental properties, they can manage those for you as well. And there's a long list there, manage investments, deal with HMRC.
You don't think of any of those things, do you?
It's what you said at the beginning. Essentially, you choose someone to trust and manage your affairs, and in the eyes of the institutions and companies, they become you. And it's completely up to you who you choose, isn't it?
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be a relative.
No, it can be a friend. It could, anyone you choose, and it can be one person, it could be multiple. There's loads of different options for you, but again, it's about you making the choice that's right for you. And that's why these documents are so important. You're actually called the donor on a power of attorney because you're donating your powers to that person you trust.
Now, when we came to you, we came for the financial affairs. Yeah. But then as we spoke to you, there's the second lasting power of attorney, I think, is just as important. I was like, Mum, we've got to do both.
Yeah, so the second one is health and welfare. So the financial one, I think a lot of people can relate to, because money makes the world go round, doesn't just stop because you've lost your capacity. But the health one, as you say, is just as important because, again, you can choose the same people or different people to step into your shoes and they can decide where you're living. So if you've chosen children and you've lost your capacity and they want you to be at home with them, they can make that choice. If you need to go into a care home, they can decide which care home that is. Even things down to what you're eating, what you're wearing, which are so personal.
It's so important.
Yeah, only your loved ones are going to know that. You could be a vegetarian. You could like to wear a certain shade of lipstick, you might like your hair a certain way, and that makes you you. So this document is really important to allow those loved ones, again, to be able to do that for you and make that choice and do what's right for you again.
So important.
And there was a story, Ian, wasn't there? It was a nurse, wasn't it, I'm sure, and she took her mum out of a care home at Christmas and didn't the police come after her because...
Sadly, you can find these stories all at there's a lot of stories like that, but yeah, it was a nurse who understandably was surprised, like I'm more than capable of looking after my own mum for a day, but yeah, she didn't have permission to take her out of the care home, so for all intents and purposes, her mum was reported as kidnapped because she shouldn't have gone out of the home. And yeah, lasting powers of attorney are they're a document that you want to have and hope that you never need to use. So, you know, with a will, we know that a will is going to be read at some point, hopefully many, many years from now. But of course, there's an inevitability to a will. with a lasting power of attorney, whilst I want to be clear it's not an insurance policy, it can be thought of in a similar kind of way. And it's weird because we tend to protect things that are less important than us and our loved ones. Yeah. We'll insure a boiler, for example, we'll insure our contents of a home, we'll insure our cars, we'll insure our phones, we'll insure our pets.
Yeah.
You know, we'll pay a small fortune for these and never, ever make a claim on it.
Yeah.
And then we forget to look after ourselves. So again, that's why we do these shows. We want people to think about how important these documents are, but also we want to make it as affordable as possible. I like your comparison of it's less than a coffee.
Yeah.
I'm the moron that won't buy coffee from a supermarket unless it's on offer, and then stop at a certain coffee chain and pay more for one drink.
I can't believe how much coffee is. Yeah. So when you look at the cost, when you split it over those 4 payments, oh my goodness, it's so affordable. But we're looking at costs now.
This is if it's not in place.
If we didn't have lasting power of attorney, we would have to go through the course. So rather than our cost today, which as you're seeing is £179, not £199 because you've got that extra 10% off, you could be paying thousands.
The first thing you need to consider about this as well is if you've not made a lasting power of attorney, so you've not chosen the people you would want to step into your shoes, if you've lost capacity, you've actually got no say over who the person is who applies for the deputy.
So anybody could come forward? Within
reason. The court protection is there to protect you, but, you know, we know of situations where families have fallen out with the son or the daughter, but of course the court isn't necessarily aware of that.
No.
And you might not want a certain individual being involved with your affairs, but again, if you don't make that decision, someone else can step into those shoes that you might not have chosen for yourself. But worse than that, the Court of Protection, because the courts are backed up and the process is so long, it can take up to a year for a deputyship order to be granted if it is granted. And as you perhaps saw on the screen there, it literally runs into thousands and thousands of pounds.
So
that's if you do it yourself.
You're wanting to look after your loved one because they're poorly.
Yeah.
You're now having to go through court, and like you're seeing here, well over £1,000.
And that's your money as well.
And there's annual costs
you
there
won't be
as
able
well.
to use your loved one's money.
No.
There's annual costs. And this is also if you do the whole process yourself, isn't it? Without any help.
Yeah. And I've seen the documents and I don't want to do it myself. And, you know, and sadly this is what happens is probably the worst phone calls we get, and it sounds a little bit bad to say that we call them the too late phone call, but we'll get a phone call from Mr. Smith who said, me and my wife did wills and lasting power of attorney, but my father's just being diagnosed with dementia.
Yeah.
Can you help? And unfortunately, if you've already lost capacity, you can't put these documents in place. So the only route is the Court of Protection.
And if it takes a year, surely, possibly your loved one could have died before you've even sorted it out.
Yeah, again, look, making a lasting power of attorneys, it is selfless in the sense that you're helping the people around you, but of course you're doing it for you because you know that if life did throw you that curveball, that it's the people that you've chosen that are going to step in and look after you.
Yeah.
So it works both ways with a lasting power of attorney. But yeah, you're quite right. Unfortunately, sadly, when family members should be looking after you, they're having to deal with the court, and then, yeah, it's not untypical for someone to pass away during the process.
I know where we were a little bit wrong as well is we waited till Mum was older and thought, oh, no, you know, now Mum's older, we should do the lasting power of attorney. But actually, you should do this early on, shouldn't you? Because you don't know what's around the corner. My best friend was knocked down by a car in her 40s. You just don't know what's around the corner.
This is the thing.
Yeah, you plan for the worst and you hope for the best.
Yeah.
No one takes out, I mean, I half joked about insuring your boiler, but people don't take out an insurance on a boiler hoping it breaks down.
No.
You don't take a lasting power of attorney and get it done correctly hoping to use it. It's actually quite the opposite. But again, it's another thing that you'll never, ever regret doing.
No.
Because
it was such peace of mind.
Yeah.
And once you've done it,
you just forget about it.
You know it's there.
And again, you make it so pleasant, you know, crazily. And we were looking at some of the 5-star reviews, and lots of people say, you know, they sit down and have a smile and a laugh with you, sort of thing, because it is
Maybe not with Charlotte.
Oh, you're awful. I can't reach him tonight to pick him.
It's all right. I'll do it when we're finished.
And you're one of the team who deals with all the calls, who deals with all the clients.
Yeah. And
so people watching tonight could be speaking to you
if they're lucky.
But you have got a great team, and so many people mention those individual names.
Yeah.
Because you become friends.
And that's what's great, and we're really proud of that. When we see the reviews, and it isn't simpler law, it is I spoke to Charlotte, or I spoke to Jack, or I spoke to Shane, or whoever it would be. And it's really nice to see, because you do take the time, you do get to know each other while you're having that conversation. We take you to a dark place for a couple of moments, especially if you're writing the will. And that's it. The rest is just a conversation that we have in the comfort, like we say, of your own home.
I think it's fair to say everyone does care, because they understand how important this is.
Yeah. And you know, because law can be complicated, you make it so easy, and there wasn't one time when I thought, oh, this is a daft... I always worry I'm asking a daft question, or I won't ask something because I feel I'm going to look a fool. Where there wasn't one moment when I sat down and we talked to a lovely lady, and I could ask anything, and I could email afterwards, oh, I forgot to ask that.
Yeah.
And you never made me feel like I was a pain, you just made it so simple.
We want you to understand it, and we won't produce a document for you until you're 100% happy with it.
Great.
So some clients may come and have all the answers, and that's great. But there are other clients that will come and they won't. They need more time, and that's also great. We can take as long as you need to figure out and make sure we've got a document that's right for you. It's at your own pace.
Now,
and remember, you can go for wills on their own, you can go for lasting powers of attorney on their own, you can go for it jointly as well. But when we're talking about simpler law, we'll have a look at some of the 5-star reviews. You really do become friends with the people you speak to.
And this is what Kalina had to say. It was very easy and pleasant. Michael was very nice and professional. He answered all my questions straight away, and his explanation was very thorough. And that's what you want, isn't it? You want that ease of, when it comes to something like this, that you're not feeling foolish about the questions that you ask. Here's another one from Linda. I'd like to thank Shane Mason for all his help while sorting out my will and power of attorney. He was most helpful and patient with all my questions. Thank you again, Shane. I will most certainly recommend your company to family and friends who haven't already got themselves sorted. And that's great, isn't it? Peace of mind. And we're exactly the same. We're a little bit preachy now, aren't we?
We're terrible now. We go around to friends for dinner and we'll just have a chat and say, oh, what have you been doing? We say, oh, we did wills the other day and lasting powers of attorney. And if they say, oh, we must write a will, we're like, you must write a will. We've got dear friends that we've got in touch with Simpler Law because they hadn't got a will in place. We're like, it's just too complex. When it's not too complex, they'll know. They deal with all the, so many different people. You think it's complicated, but actually they've seen it all before.
That's the thing Charlotte always says, isn't it, Charlotte? You always say that if someone says it's complicated, it's usually quite straightforward.
Yeah, it's when people say, oh, we've got a really nice, easy one.
That's when you put your seatbelt on.
Yeah.
But look, there might be people watching this now. So, yeah, there might be people watching this now. You're quite right. Who just think it's going to be too difficult. It's too complicated. My situation's too complex. Charlotte and her team, this is all they do. And I don't mean that to sound disrespectful. It's all they do, which is brilliant. So they specialise in this area. Their job is to hold your hand through the whole thing, not in a patronising or condescending way, but to make sure you're happy through each step. And that goes at your pace. So please don't let anything put you off. Hopefully, especially with the special offer again, we've removed a price barrier. And hopefully you've realised if you talk to someone like Charlotte, it's not daunting, and her team truthfully are better than Charlotte.
Oh,
he's brave tonight, isn't he?
We won't have him back.
No.
Sleep.
Bring another.
He's done the extra 10%.
Sleep deprivation is making me a little bit strange.
It's cheeky tonight.
But again, in all seriousness, and Charlotte will back me up on this despite me having a bit of fun, is no one ever finishes a consultation having set up a will or set up a lasting power of attorney or both and says, I wish I hadn't done that.
No.
It's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Charlotte often says it feels, for some clients, a weight's been lifted, and sometimes it's quite a significant weight that they didn't even know they were carrying around. And again, the biggest reason we do this show, and if you're listening to me now, is if you don't think you need a will, please just ask yourself why you think that is. Because what I've realised over the last 25 years of doing this is when people have assumed or they've presumed something, I've realised actually it's more of a hope.
Yeah.
They just hope that their family will be taken care of in the way that they expect, or they hope that their wife or their partner or their children will be able to step into the shoes if they lost capacity. So it's less of an assumption and more of a hope. What we're here to tell you categorically is, unfortunately, that hope doesn't exist without the right documents in place. So the hardest thing, and you can do it tonight, the hardest thing is sending that text or picking up the phone. Charlotte's colleagues are in the office now.
Yeah,
40333 600 2600. You'll speak to one of Charlotte's colleagues now. If you don't want to speak to someone, just text the word will to 66777 and you've secured this offer, and I promise you, you'll never regret doing it. No one ever wakes up and goes, oh, I wish I'd not done a will.
No.
I mean, I wish I'd not had a mullet when I was 18.
That was a wish. We still need to see that picture.
These chins, this nose and a mullet, it's never going to be good. But, you know, we can, I try not to do regret, but you can regret certain things, and you can also make spontaneous purchases that you think, oh, why did I do that? This isn't one of those times. No one has ever turned around and said, I wish I hadn't looked after myself or my family. So please, take the hard step tonight, because we won't be repeating.
And the offers
are incredible. And you could be looking down, and I don't know what happens when you pass, but I like to think that Dad's looking down and checking on us, and you could be looking down and wishing you had done that will. Why didn't you just send that text? Because it is that first step. We put so many things off. My mum's needed her patio doing for about 5 years.
Good news.
The good news is we made the phone call.
Have you actually?
Unbelievable.
They finished the patio last week.
Wow.
And my mum's like, this is fantastic.
What a relief.
But we could have had it for 5 years.
Yeah.
We put so many things off, and then something happens, doesn't it? All of a sudden,
Life always
it's
gets in the
Easter,
way.
it's spring. Then you're booking a summer holiday, and then before you know it, it's Christmas again, and you still haven't written that will. It's that first step today, and not only it's that peace of mind that you will then do it, it's the fact you've got such a great price as well.
Such great deals.
Incredible prices.
And remind you of all the deals, because we've covered briefly both the wills and the lasting power of attorney. First of all, your will itself should be suggested retail price of £209. Our offer price is brilliant at £99, but as far as we know, it's going to be the last time we're able to
Well, it
offer
wasn't
this.
meant to be tonight. It's a real extra, that 10%. We had a one-off show, but lots of people sadly missed out because it is time limited. So they have very kindly given us a second opportunity, but this is it. You grab it whilst they've been so kind, because it's down to £89. When you split that cost, think about what you spend on coffee. I can't believe the price of coffees.
Well, you don't even have to pay the £89 today. If you're splitting the cost with those 4 interest-free payments, $22.25 on your first
I bet you
of 4
spend that on
payments.
coffee a week, don't
Easily.
you?
Easily. So $22.25 on your first of 4 payments. Huge saving. That's just on the will itself. If you want to go for the lasting power of attorney, also brilliant deal. £349 a suggested price, down to less than £200 on our offer price, but with the extra 10%, £179. And with those 4 interest-free payments, $44.75 on your first of 4 payments.
And again, our takeaway is more than that.
Yeah, 1 takeaway.
We actually haven't had a takeaway for a good few weeks because it's more than that, but we might treat ourselves this weekend. But that is it paid for in 4 payments, and that's your lasting power of attorney. But please don't panic. If you watch the show and you've only asked to do the will, and then you learn more about the lasting power of attorney, you think, oh gosh, should have done the lasting power of attorney and the will. Look at the saving. I'm saving £316. They will be quite happy as long as you secure the deals tonight to actually allow you to then change. Well, actually, can I add on the lasting power of attorney? So it should be 558. It's down to 269. Well, it's not tonight. It wasn't meant to be, but you've got that extra 10% off. So £242, which with your 4 payments, you'll split that over 4 payments. £60.50 is the first of those 4 payments. Now, the very first 250 people, and you do often miss out on the book, so this is another reason to do it right now. You'll receive this book. And I originally said you should have this book from birth, but that's perhaps a little bit early. But I think from as soon as you start work, we should all have a book like this. Tell us about this, if you would. Why did this book come about?
This came about really from our estate administration department. One of the jobs that an executor has to do in a will, which if you make your own will, you choose who they are, but we'll talk about that in a second, is they have to gather in the deceased estate, so they have to collect everything together. That can be quite an arduous task, so we basically put this together to help with that, and it complements the will perfectly. The interesting statistics that came out of our research when we were putting this together is we discovered that there's up to £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots in the UK.
Gosh.
5 billion.
5 billion, because it's not being found by the deceased
Because
family.
you probably wouldn't know every pension that even perhaps your husband had got, but your father, your grandfather.
Thankfully, my father's still alive and is retired, so he's in receipt of his pensions now. And I know that he worked in the steelworks, but even now, I've not asked him about every single job that he had, so I wouldn't have known every job and every firm that he worked at. But yeah, £5 billion is in pension pots gone unclaimed, £2 billion in unclaimed life insurance policies that should have gone to family and loved ones, and £850 million sat in bank accounts that, you know, that client can't possibly be 130 years old kind of thing. The money's just not being found. So again, it's another selfless element, but it's quite a cathartic thing for people to do as well.
I really truly think it is.
But today as well, and your story is very good about the passwords and the friend's grandchild. You know, if you haven't got a passcode or access to...
Didn't even think about it. You can't get a you can't find out someone's password for their phones or their iPads. And so much information now is on our iPads, and it might be photographs that you don't want to lose, but it might be a vital email. And a family member, they were in that situation. They needed to get onto the granddad's or the dad's, you know, iPad. Couldn't get onto it. Didn't know what to do. You know, it suddenly, sadly died, and they just didn't know what to do. And then it was only by luck the little grandson was walking past, and he went, "I know Granddad's password
to play on the tablet,
because I play on his," and that's the only reason they could get onto that tablet, and it was vital information.
All registered in that one place, all those things that are essential.
And if you've got a mum like me who's got so many hidey places, you've got no chance of finding anything. It's all in that one place.
So the first 250 people who secure the offers will get that book. To get in touch, it's really simple and really straightforward. 3 different ways, or you can go through our website, so simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. 0333 600 2600. Now, the team are in the call centre right now.
And the team are just like Charlotte. They are there, ready and waiting to speak to you. If you've got a couple of questions, that's great, but it's not questions tonight. It's just that you want to write a will. You want a lasting power of attorney. So, you know, make sure you speak to them and register that you want that, so you secure the deals. This is the reason you want to do it tonight.
Very important to point out, you don't need any documentation.
No.
You don't need anything with you.
And then you can sort out having the proper conversation. When it's good with you, perhaps you're going away for a couple of weeks, you can pick the date that's right for you. But I think one of the best ways, and it's always super busy, is the text. Because sometimes perhaps you're going off to bed in a bit, or perhaps you've been talking all day and you just don't want to talk to anybody. I enter all the competitions. I did another one today. I'm going to win £450,000 tomorrow. You text Will to 66777. Now, this isn't a competition. If it was, you win because you've taken that first step to write that will, and of course you've taken that step by just doing that, texting Will to 66777. You've secured the prices and secured the book as well.
And at this time of night, that's always the most popular. So many people go for that way because it's easy. You've got your phone with you all the time, haven't you? However, if you do want to go through our website, you can do that as well, shopontv.co.uk. Scroll down, you'll get to our on-screen partners. You click on Simpler Law, and it's as simple as that. You just fill out that form, and once again, the team will get back to you and sort out your appointment and everything that you need to do, whether it's the will, whether it's lasting power of attorney. Either way, you've secured the deals.
And we have got as well a QR code right there. And that's very clever, isn't it? Even I can do those now. You just have to go onto your photo bit, and it's like you're taking a photo, and a little, on your phone, obviously, the camera bit, and it goes a little yellow square around it, and then it'll say sort of Simpler Law or something. Press on that, and it'll take you straight through.
It's magic. It's magical. So lots of ways to get in touch. And tonight is the night because we've got that extra special offer, that extra 10% off. When it comes to the wills, everybody needs a will, and with a will you can do so much more than just basically put your property in your will.
I think some people will think they haven't got anything, and actually there's a lot more you can do with the will than just what you physically own as such.
When we start talking to clients, they actually start to realise what they do actually own. But a lot of people assume a will is just for distribution, but it's for so much more. It can, a big one that we have with a lot of clients is the age that children inherit.
I'd never even thought about that.
So children legally can't inherit until the age of 18, but a lot of clients that we speak to actually want to make that older, or stagger it. Yes, they can do 21, 23, 25. They seem to be more popular. We've all been 18.
Well, that's if you've got everything at 18, it could be gone by the time you're 19.
So again, having that conversation, you can actually discuss, you know, what you think would be right for your own children, grandchildren as well. You can leave family heirlooms, well, specific gifts, but they could be family heirlooms.
So it could be a certain piece of jewellery you want to go to a
Could be an
certain person.
engagement ring, couldn't it, a wedding ring.
Yeah, something that's really important to you that you want to stay down the bloodline or a particular person.
Not unusual for mums to specify, especially if they've got more than one daughter, who gets the wedding ring, who gets the engagement ring, eternity ring.
That can be an upset, can't it?
Yeah. Again,
Exactly.
it's personal, it's selfless again.
Yeah, it's all bespoke, and gift of pet is a really popular one.
Gift of pet, yeah.
A lot of people love their kids.
I've dealt with the children now.
Yeah.
Talk about the dog.
Love their pets more.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
that's
yeah,
really
it's-
important to people now, isn't it?
It is massively
That they're
important.
looked after when they're gone.
Yeah, and that's why writing your own will is so important, because it's all bespoke to you. It's all personal to you, and it's just about you making the right choice.
And you can actually write if you want to be buried or cremated, or perhaps that's something you don't really want to talk about, but it can be in your will so everybody knows what you actually want.
Yeah, absolutely. Your preference on funeral requests, and even who your executors are. So
Now, again, some people might not know what executors means. Explain that for us, if you would.
yeah, so your executors are essentially the people you choose to distribute your estate. They go
Right.
through probate is the correct term we use, but they distribute your estate once you've passed away. So they're essentially in control of your will and making sure that your wishes are met.
Okay.
They can be family, they can be friends. Again, it's your choice.
choose,
Yeah, and that's the importance of writing your own will. If you have the rules of intestacy, again, you've lost that
It's out of
choice.
your hands,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, you know, Charlotte and her team hold your hand through that whole process. Every single decision is your decision. The
Yeah.
document that we produce isn't our document, it's your document. And that's why every time we write a will, it is bespoke and it is unique, because it's your executors, it's your children, it's your family, it's your gifts, it's your heirlooms,
Yeah.
and it's your distribution. You know, it doesn't have to be. People assume that it always has to be just like an equal share between your children, even if that's not what you want. You literally decide everything. The graphic that was on the screen a minute ago that sort of listed all the things that you can achieve with a will, the key thing to take out of that is it just says you choose.
Yeah.
If you pass away without a will, oh, thank you, you've popped it back up. But if you, it's like there's more than one person listening. But again, in all seriousness, if you don't make your own will, you're not choosing to do anything. By default, you're actually choosing to accept the government will.
I think there's a lot of people that don't realise that, though, and, you know, we didn't. You don't realise that if you haven't got a will in place, it automatically goes to the government will, which isn't right for anybody.
No, and yet, and if you do think about it just for a second, if you haven't made your own will, so you haven't got a legally binding document, there has to be a default position, otherwise there'd be anarchy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you sort of say it's wrong, but there has to be something, doesn't there?
it's like
And this is it.
There's a light bulb moment for people
Yeah.
going, and honestly, if you've been told by the pub quiz champion that you don't need one because you're common law husband and wife, that's not true.
And this is just it's a series of yes/no questions, isn't it?
It literally is. It literally is. It asks the question of the deceased as to whether they were married in a civil partnership or not. And again, there's no sort of grey areas or alternatives. They're all yes or no questions.
Yeah.
Then it asks if you've got any children, and then if you haven't got any children, are your parents still alive? And then it starts going down through brothers and sisters, 'cause it basically follows your bloodline. So if you're in a dynamic family where there's stepchildren or there's people that you would want to benefit from your estate that aren't in your bloodline, it just isn't going to happen. And that's the heartbreaking thing. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, I want this to happen," and so everyone that knows them knows that's what they want.
You know, you've discussed it with your family, but it's not going to happen, is
And then
it?
when they
Unless
pass away, all these people are then shocked to learn that the law says that isn't what's happening, and actually this now has to happen.
I think a lot of people don't. I think there are people out there that perhaps think, oh, I don't need to write. Everybody needs a will, especially perhaps if you're in a second marriage, if you're unmarried like us. But perhaps you're a single person. And there's a story that really sticks in my mind, because I think if I was a single person, and obviously we don't know how this guy thought, but I think I would think, well, you know, who have I got to leave it to? Even as a single person, tell us about the gentleman. Was he a doctor or something?
Yeah, I think he was a medical consultant.
Right.
Successful gentleman. Basically, the backstory was, and how this came to be was, the backstory was that when he was born, his dad decided to leave his mum. And basically, his mum was left to bring up this gentleman and his brother. So she, for all intents and purposes, became a single mom, raised the two boys. He went on to be quite successful, but he never married. He never had children. And then sadly, he passed away totally unexpectedly, totally suddenly, unexpected. And the backstory is important because when he passed away, he hadn't made a will. And we'll never know why. You know,
No.
was it too young, or like you say, I'm single and I've got no family.
Who do I leave it to?
We'll never know the answer. But when he did pass away, because he hadn't made his own will, the government will comes into play. So he's died intestate. The first question that was asked of him was he married or in a civil partnership? The answer was no. The next question was, did he have children? The answer was no. So the next question was, did he have parents? The answer was yes. And his dad, who walked out on him when he was a baby, hadn't even sent birthday cards. There was just no relationship there at all. Didn't even know his dad. But then his mom's literally had to track down her ex-husband, who's not been in their life for decades, and say, you're entitled to half of our son's estate. And everyone sort of goes, well, that can't be right, and that's not what he would have wanted. And sadly, it's irrelevant because he passed away without his own will.
Yeah.
So he couldn't document, well, he didn't document his decisions. And so it went to the default will, and that meant that his father... And any reasonable person can expect that if you could ask him the question, of course we can't now, would you want your dad who you never met and walked out on your mum when you were a baby to get half of everything you want? We can all reasonably expect the answer would have been no.
It could have been as simple as just writing down, if anything happens, everything goes to my mum.
I'm not being flippant when I say this. Charlotte would have fixed that in 15 minutes.
Yeah. That's
in 15 minutes.
And for so little cost tonight.
For the equivalent, it's just over 70 pence a day.
And his mum had to go through that. She's already lost her son and devastated, and got to contact the husband that left her and left him.
Sometimes I struggle because I'm really passionate about this because we've done it. I've done it for 25 years, and because of what we've got, we know that making a will can be absolutely huge. It's something we do day in, day out, but we never lose sight of the fact that it might be the first and only time you make a will. And we never lose sight of the fact that whilst it might appear like a simple document like that book does, the importance of it is...
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
There's an importance
massive
to it being legal and doing it with a company like yourselves, because you can get templates, can't you? You can sort of...
Why you want
and you have to pay for these, don't you? You pay for those.
Yeah, you typically buy them.
But you can go horribly wrong with those, can't you?
Yeah, I don't want to sound arrogant. I don't know anything about anything else other than estate planning because this is what we specialise in. So I wouldn't dream of servicing my car. If I get a toothache, I wouldn't dream of looking at how I pull a tooth or do a root canal. I'm going to go to a dentist. So you go to the professional. And it is, I'll be honest, it's a personal frustration of mine that these even exist because it creates a risk that doesn't need to exist. You know, unless you're a specialist in this area, I don't know why you take the chance. You can speak to someone like Charlotte, who will give you professional and qualified advice. Her advice is insured for up to £5 million. So if we get it wrong, and touch wood, we've never had a will fail, if we get it wrong, you and your estate is insured for up to £5 million. And at the end of the day, you will decide whether you take Charlotte's advice or not. That's your decision. There's no obligation on you to take that advice, but you will have made a fully informed decision, and you'll get a professionally documented will that's professionally bound, will help you through all the signing process, because even in this digital age, a will's not actually valid until it's got a wet signature. So we help you through all of that. We don't just say, thanks very much, off you go now. We'll hold your hand through the whole process and make sure it's all done correctly. When you buy a template, there's no one giving you advice. If you make a mess of it, there's no one else that they can turn to. And sadly, the worst stories that come out of some template wills, it's clear what a client, well, I say a client, it's clear what this person wanted to achieve, but if that fails, and often they do, that's almost more heartbreaking than having nothing at all.
Because they had written one in a way, but they'd written it incorrectly.
Yeah.
There wasn't there a couple, and they were leaving gifts to grandchildren, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And they knew what they wanted, but because it was written wrong,
they just followed the template and it asked if they wanted to leave gifts, and it turned out that Mr. owned the house in his own name.
Okay.
And it was obvious from looking at it that if either him or his wife passed away, that they wanted everything to go to each other on first death. When you're talking to a couple, there's always a first death and a second death, if that makes sense. But the way that the template was laid out, he also wanted his grandchildren to get £20,000 each. But it was clear when talking to the family, the intention was that £20,000 was to come out of the sale of the house after they both passed away. But he passed away first, and these cash gifts then became due, which meant the house had to be sold before it went to his wife, which meant it was all getting really messy. But to make it worse, when they drafted the will, there was only, I think, 3 or 4 grandchildren, so there was like 80,000 to come out of the estate. I don't know why I'm laughing. When he passed away, there was 8. So
gosh.
There's 160,000. So they not stayed on top of the will. Gosh. So they did something brilliant because they knew they needed a will, they had very specific ideas, but they obviously didn't receive any advice, so it got very messy.
That's a really good point, actually. If someone's already got a will, can they still take advantage of the offer?
If they think they need to make some changes, they want to check they've done it correctly.
Check if it's still relevant to you, check if it's signed properly.
Yeah.
We can help you with any of that.
Right.
But yeah, just check it's up to date, because things do change. I think you forget a lot of the time. You carry on with life, don't you? And just check what you've got
And
in
rules
place,
change, which we don't realise.
We were on exactly the same.
We were, weren't we then?
Well, the thing is, even if you don't think your own personal circumstances have changed, it's quite funny when you speak to people, because they say, oh, nothing's changed, then you find out they're on the third marriage and they've had...
Yeah.
But again, in all seriousness, you're quite right. Even if your personal situation hasn't changed, legislation might have changed the background. There's been changes with regards to inheritance tax.
Yes.
And I'm certainly not going to get political, but we all know that if you've got something, people are trying to get hold of it now. So we can help with all of that. What we give you for this price is phenomenal, truthfully. It's a fully advised service. We will give you advice on everything. And then, like I said earlier, it's entirely up to you whether you take our advice or not. You'll take all of it, some of it, or none of it.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you'll be fully informed, and the document will be your document. If you don't do that, you basically, especially if you're listening to me now, you know that if you don't make your own will, you will get the government will, and I promise you, no one wants the government will.
And it's what you specialise in, isn't it? It's what...
Charlotte. You get to speak to Charlotte,
Always
our team.
making himself up now, isn't he?
He's playing catch-up.
Yeah.
He is, definitely.
But you are specialists in the field, aren't you? This is all you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all fully trained, and you've seen we've got 5-star Trustpilots, which are named, which we're really proud of.
You're award-winning as well.
Yeah, really proud of that. And you know, again,
You should be proud
not being a
of that.
sycophant, but that's everybody. That's everybody in the group that helped us to achieve that. But yeah. Last year at the British Wills and Probate Awards, we were announced as the Estate Planning Firm of the Year. So it's a validation that we're doing everything right. But we put the client at the heart of everything we do. It's an obvious thing to say. We're nothing without our clients. But I love the fact I count myself very, very lucky to have found this profession, because we get to run a brilliant company, but we're generally helping people. Yes, we want you to buy a will. Of course we do. But at the end of that, you're going to get something that's amazing for your family. We're not selling you anything, really. You're going to do something amazing for your family. We're going to give you advice, and you're going to take some of it, or you're not.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you're going to have something absolutely amazing.
It is your last gift to your family, and you know you've done it correctly. So easy to do things wrong. And if you haven't written a will, if you think you don't need a will, sadly, there is that will out there for you. If you pass and you haven't legally written a will, there's the government will. And the government will is over 100 years old, or it is 100 years old. And it wasn't right back then, and it definitely isn't right now. It wouldn't be right for me and Sean, who've been together 34 years, but we're not married. It wouldn't be right for you if you're remarried, you've got children from different families. It can tear families apart because it goes down the bloodline, so it's then down to who dies first, awfully. It's not right for you if you're a single person and there's perhaps family members you don't want things to go to. It's just not right, and all you need to do is to actually write your own will. And I know
it's your last wish, is it?
It makes sense, doesn't it? You know, it makes sense, but we put things off. I think that's our problem.
And this is what it's about, is taking that first step, and we try and make it as easy as possible for you, working with experts from Simpler Law, bringing you fantastic value. Because when we first looked, we were thinking...
We presumed it'd be really expensive, and I thought it'd be so complicated, and it's not. It's simpler. Just like we're sitting chatting tonight, that's exactly what it'll be like for you. It is so... If you think, oh, they're having a nice little conference, they seem really nice, that's exactly what you're dealing with. They make it so easy. We love working with Charlotte and Ian. It's a really nice night for us, because they are all really pleasant people that just want to make life easier for you, for your family when you've gone, and they make it so simple. But the show tonight makes it so affordable as well.
It really does. The prices are fantastic. So we started with the wills for you. Now, this show wasn't meant to happen with the extra 10% discount. The will itself, suggested retail price of £209, comes down to £99, but with the extra 10% off, it's £89. And with those 4 interest-free payments, £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Then we go to your lasting power of attorney. That's also available at a massively reduced price. £349 is the suggested retail, down to less than £200 on our offer price, but with the extra 10% off. And remember, this is only valid until close of business on Monday, but I would secure those deals right now. £179 or £44.75 on your first of 4 payments if you want to spread the cost. But the biggest saving of all, if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney, should have been £558, down to £269, but with that extra 10% off, down to £242.
So affordable, isn't it? When you think about what you spend on coffee, that's your will paid for. You probably pay more than that for coffee every week. And then takeaways, going out for a night. We've just been over to New York. My goodness, you can't buy anything for any of those prices.
The meal we had in the airport.
Oh, my word.
Oh, my goodness.
We were like that, really?
We had a sandwich.
No, and we'll do that, won't we? But what you're doing tonight is you're buying something that is so important. It's your last gift to a loved one. It's, you know, or it's the lasting power of attorney, which we are going to go back into. If you're thinking, well, I've heard of that, I'm not really sure what that is. All you're doing tonight is securing the deals, though. You must get in contact because those deals are time limited, and that extra 10% shouldn't be. We didn't come into work tonight thinking we had that extra 10%. That's kindly been provided because the last show we did, it was a one-off. And what actually happened is, sadly, lots of people got in contact after the finish time. And our finish time is actually 5 o'clock on Monday. But do it now because you'll forget it'll be Tuesday before you know it and you'll think, oh, I missed it. And so they've agreed that we could have that extra 10% off if you did miss out that last time. So easy to get in contact as well. That's the nicest thing. It's just nothing tricky before you go to bed tonight, or perhaps you're going out to work. You can either jump onto the website, which is simple.
Yep, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That'll take you through to those exclusive offers with that extra 10% off. You can call the call centre. The team are there right through till 3 a.m. They will be very busy at this time of night. 0333 600 2600.
And they're all as lovely as Charlotte as well. And remember, if you've got a couple of questions, you can ask, but it's not about questions tonight. It's just securing the deal. They'll sort out a date. Perhaps you're going on holiday for a couple of weeks. That's fine. They'll sort out a date that's right for you.
The other thing to point
talk
out
about
is
it.
You don't need any documents with you. This is,
none at all.
As Hayley just said, just about securing the offers, so you get these fabulous offers and you get that book we talked about. Also, you can text the easiest way. Text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777. And the team will get back to you later today after 11 o'clock.
And we've had a lovely email in. You know, we keep saying how great the team are. And this is from Ellie. And Ellie says, just to say, I'm in the process with Ruby at Simpler Law. And I can say she has been so good and told me exactly what I needed to give her. She's sorting everything out for me. She said, thank you. And it's that.
And that's someone who's emailed into us tonight, who's in the process.
Sorting everything out for me. You don't have to worry about anything. It's not complicated. You don't even need to know anything. It's a simple sit-down conversation, and all of a sudden, the information they need, they've talked from you, really. We dealt with Simpler Law way before they worked with us here on Shop on TV, and they became friends. And me and my mum, it was for mum, and it was the lasting power of attorney, which we are going to go into. Petrified of everything.
Nervous wrecks, the pair of them.
Absolutely worry about absolutely everything. So it was so daunting. And as soon as we actually sat down, before we were like this, and as soon as we sat down and started chatting, all of a sudden this lady became a friend, and all of a sudden it was just so easy and just a weight off our shoulders that it was all dealt with so easily.
Hand-holding process that just walks you through everything that you need to know. We've got another great review from Trustpilot to share with you from Kerry. Kerry said, very friendly colleague dealing with my will. It's a very important thing to do, and I was quite nervous about it beforehand, but they made the call very easy with a few laughs in there. I have referred family members to the company, and we've done that time and time again because it is that easy process, isn't it?
It's when we've discovered how important it is to have a will through the shows, yeah. and we didn't realise when we had our will originally done how important it was. We presumed that obviously what's mine is Sean's, what Sean's is mine, but we're not married. It would never have been like that at all. And I think whatever situation you're in, if you haven't got a will, there's a government will, and it's not right for any of you. And I think we all presume that. And then you think it's going to be complicated, and all of a sudden, it's so easy, it's so affordable, and it is just so important. It's your last gift to your loved ones, and you could save a family falling out
And
because...
you're just taking that first step.
Yeah,
And that's
tonight
the thing.
that's
Get the
it.
ball rolling. Make sure you secure those offers, and you'll never regret it.
Sometimes
like
that's the
Charlotte
bit
always
we're
says.
just rubbish at, isn't it? Actually
The
starting the process.
The easy part is talking to Charlotte and her team.
Yeah.
The easy part
Absolutely.
is that because you're over that hurdle. But
Yeah.
you said something earlier, which I think is exactly right. Is your phone's probably by you right now.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to speak to one of Charlotte's colleagues tonight, just text the word "will" to 66777. We'll call you back.
Yeah.
And no one ever regrets doing this. That's the thing. I know how cheesy that sounds when I say it, but it's because it's absolutely true. No one regrets putting a will in place, and no one regrets having lasting powers of attorney in place. The flip side to that, unfortunately, is your family might regret that you didn't do those things.
That's so true.
That's when it all goes wrong.
That's
It's
when
not
it
right
so
down.
true.
And it's all avoidable. if you
It
just speak to
is,
someone like
and it's
Charlotte.
all so easy. And we're talking about wills, and we're saying, there's so many misconceptions where you presume what you think is going to happen is going to happen. You've told all the family, and that doesn't happen. But lasting power of attorney is the same, isn't it? Some people will have heard of lasting power of attorney. Some people won't. But I think I presume, I look after my mum now, that if she was really poorly and she couldn't look after herself, that I could just take over all her affairs and sort her bank out and sort her bills out.
No.
And the truth is it's not the case, is
No,
it?
I think it's that same assumption, and like you say, a lot of the time it's the hope, I think, as well. People don't like to think of
be okay.
not being able to do that. Yeah, it's going to be okay. Everyone knows that that's what my mum or my dad would want. But yeah, unfortunately, as we said earlier, if you go to any institution and try to access that account, the first thing they're going to do is data protection. Are you the account holder?
Yeah, even if you ring the gas or the electric,
Yeah.
Straight away it stops,
they don't want to.
If you don't know your own
speak
answers,
to
they're
your
not going to
mum.
let you through, even if it's your account.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if someone's lost their capacity, you're even more vulnerable.
And what does that mean, losing the capacity?
So losing your capacity is if you're unable to make your own decisions. So it could be ill health,
Right.
dementia, for example, is a big one. It could be a freak accident. So a lot of people think powers of attorney are related to the elderly, which you can understand. As you get older, there's a lot more health complications. But like I say, freak accident, it could be at any age. So these documents are important because once you've got them, that's it. Put them to the side, you know they're there, and they'll last you then for life. So it's just taking that first step and putting them in place.
And what are they going to do? What actually is a lasting
So
power of attorney?
it's where you can nominate who you trust to make your decisions for you if you have lost your capacity and you're unable to do it for yourself.
Okay.
So it's, again, you having that power to say, I trust this person or these people. It could be multiple people. A lot of clients choose children. They might choose siblings, friends also.
So I could go
That's
and
who you
pay
trust.
mum's bills. I could look after her affairs as such.
Yeah, so on the power of attorney, you are called the donor, so you're donating your power to that person that you've nominated. So they can take that document to the bank, to the doctors, wherever they need to go with that, and essentially become you. They're your voice in that
Right.
scenario, and they can make your decisions for you.
And there are two different types, so we're going to look at property and affairs first of all, aren't
Yep,
we?
yep. So property and financial affairs is, as it states really, anything to do with your finances. So whoever you've nominated can go to your bank, they can pay your bills, claim pensions, claim benefits, deal with any investments that you've got.
Don't even
open and
think about
close
that, do you?
accounts.
If you needed to sell your house to go into a home or something, you could be you could do
Property,
that.
yeah, these things don't stop. If you've lost your capacity and can't make your decisions, bills still need to be paid, money still needs to come in. So these things have to be managed by somebody.
Yeah.
So having that power of attorney means you choose the right person for you that can do that for you.
And when we did mums, and this is what we came to you for, was the property and affairs, as we chatted, we discovered there was another lasting power of attorney, which when we heard of it, I was like, that mum, this is just as important. So we ended up doing both. Because the other is more how you're going to be looked after.
More personal.
It's more
isn't it?
personal, it's more emotional, yeah. It's health and welfare power of attorney. So this one, again, you can choose the same people as your finances, you can choose different people because
Right,
they are
yes.
two separate documents.
Yep.
So that person, again, can decide where you're living. So if they want you to live at home with them and care for you themselves, they can do that. If you need to go into a care home, they can decide which care home that is, where it is, so it's close to them, for example. Even decide who isn't visiting you at that care home. So if you might be estranged from a family member that you wouldn't see usually, they can, again, make that choice for you. Even down to what you're wearing, what you're eating, which some people think sounds trivial, but that's really, really
It's so
important. If
important.
you're a vegetarian, or you like to look a certain way, you like to have your hair done, you like to have your nails done, anything like that, that your loved ones are going to know what makes you you, and it gives them the power to make sure that that continues if you're unable to do that for yourself.
I've got a dear friend who was in an accident in her 40s 10 years ago now, and those things are so important to her. She
Really
is a
important.
vegetarian. She loves the way she dresses, and of course that would have been all out of our hands if she hadn't have had that. So those, I think sometimes we think lasting a power of attorney is for if you're older. That's not the case at all, is it?
No. Get these in place as soon as you can, because like I say, once you've got them, that's it. You don't have to think about it again. Put them somewhere safe, and if life throws you that curveball, you know that you've got that there, and it protects you, but it also protects your loved ones.
Because it's even if you're a married couple, if your partner sadly perhaps has a terrible accident, it leaves you in a situation perhaps not even be able to deal with your own money and things, isn't it?
Yeah, depending on how you hold bank accounts and things like that. But a lot of people assume even if they've got joint bank accounts that they can still access that. Okay, but unfortunately, if it's a jointly held asset, it's deemed that both people have to have the capacity to manage that jointly held asset.
Right.
So if one of you loses capacity, that asset should be frozen.
Don't.
I think the interesting thing, Charlotte put it across quite well, is the sort of the myth, if you like, around it is people like, yeah, but the bank know me, or I'd be able to go in. But it's like, well, seriously, ask yourself the question: if you walked into your wife's bank now and said, "Oh, she sent me in to get £200 out of her account," what are the chances of you getting that money?
Yeah, you've got no
Zero,
chance. Yeah,
because you're not the account holder, and yet. Illogically, you think that if your wife then loses capacity, that somehow magically you're given the power that you can access it, when actually she's now even more protected because, of course, she's technically vulnerable because she's lost a voice. So, and when we say losing your voice, obviously it's metaphorical, but Charlotte's quite right. In a lasting power of attorney, you call the donor because you effectively donate your power. You give your voice to somebody else. So even things like the health and welfare document, you can even give permission to your attorneys to make decisions about your life-sustaining treatments. Some people have really strong views about how they would want to be cared for in an awful situation. And again, that's quite a selfless thing to do. And it just means that your family aren't having to watch or try and speak without the power to speak when something's happening to you that they know you wouldn't want to happen.
What does happen then? So we know with a will, if you haven't written a will, there is a government will.
Yeah.
What does happen if something happened to mum and I was trying to sort a bank account out or sort a carer? Yeah, what would I do to be able to do what I wanted to do?
Again, there's only one legal avenue to go down, unfortunately, and that's something called, you have to apply for what's called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. So the Court of Protection exists to look after vulnerable people, people who've lost capacity, that haven't made a lasting power of attorney. It's a really stark contrast. If you made a lasting power of attorney, let's say I named you two as my attorneys, I lost capacity yesterday, you register my document with something called the Office of the Public of Guardian. They know that whilst I had capacity, I trusted you to make decisions on my behalf, and you just get on and do what I would ordinarily do. And that's, for all intents and purposes, that's the end of it.
And these costs, Ian,
but without
so this is what we have to do if you haven't done it.
And let's say it's you two that would very kindly, because you don't have to, and it might be someone that I didn't want to go to the Court of Protection to try to take control, but let's say you two or one of you then did have to go to the Court of Protection. First of all, you have to start paying all these fees. You'll know that the application fee is already more than twice what it costs to put a lasting power of attorney in place. Then you're going to pay an assessment fee because the court assesses that you're the right person for it. If they ask for a hearing, that's £494.
Gosh.
And then there's an annual supervision fee of £320, because if you are granted a deputyship order, the court actually supervise you. So sometimes you have to ask for permission to spend money over a certain limit. So, and that, you could be a husband or wife as well of the person who has lost capacity, but the court are there to protect the vulnerable person, not to help you effectively. And it's such an expensive process. That's if you do it on your own without any professional help.
Which I bet when you see the papers, you'll think, I've got no idea what to do.
It's not unusual for us to hear that people have gone through the Court of Protection process and it's cost anywhere between £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 by the time they've had the legal costs on top of the court costs. And then sometimes, during the application process, sadly, the person who's been incapacitated has passed away before the deputyship order is even granted.
Don't, because it takes so long to get that sorted.
Yeah.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Charlotte hit the nail on the head. This is something you want to do now and then just hope that you never need to use it. But if you put it in place now, you can then just forget about it and move on.
It's not like an insurance, but it's a bit like an insurance. And we pay insurance on. My mum has been paying an insurance on her dishwasher for about 2 years. She uses it once a week. It's the family dishwasher. It takes her a week to load it up. She was like, Hayley, why am I paying that? I'm like, why are you paying that? We could have bought 300 dishwashers.
I think it's easily done. I think quite often you speak to clients, you know, you think about what you do pay out for monthly. Do we really need it? And are we protecting stuff that's not as important as us or our loved ones? Yeah. And I'm not saying cancel your boiler insurance.
No.
You know what's going to happen. The next day your boiler will blow up. But we will protect things like a boiler. We will protect our phones. We will protect our, you know, our electrical equipment. And obviously we'll insure cars and we'll insure house contents and things like that. But we sometimes forget about ourselves. Yeah. So, you know, we'll insure our pets, but we forget to look after ourselves. Yeah. So this is a moment where you can just take a breath and think, right, okay, if life threw me that curveball, who would I want to step into my shoes? Well, I'd want my wife, or I'd want my partner, I'd want my children. Well, the only way that you can guarantee that's going to happen, and as inexpensively and quickly as possible, is to put a lasting power of attorney into place. And
you're doing that for yourself, but you're also doing it for the family that you're leaving behind, because they're already going through the most emotional, horrendous time. You know, a loved one's been in a terrible accident, or they've got dementia. You want to help them, but you can't. So you're already going through that, and then if you've got to go through, you know, I don't know, the circus and the trampolines and the you know, all these different things to try and help, and then it's too late. And you could have just actually done that lasting power of attorney right now, so affordably. And we did it for Mum. It was a complete weight off our shoulders. We never think about it now. Until I do the shows, never think about it, because it's done, it's dusted, it's put away, and we know that if it's needed, it's there.
And it's done at your pace, however you want to do it, that you're not rushed through it. The team are brilliant.
I'm the biggest worrier. They make it so easy. It's like a sit-down conversation. You don't need any answers. You know, that they talk through everything, talk everything out of you, really. They become friends. Excuse me.
But you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to an office to do anything. The team will get in touch with you. You'll secure that offer, and they'll arrange that appointment for you perfectly. You can see the different ways of getting in touch and the different offers that we've got available for you. So let's run you through those and remind you of all those different offers that we've got available. So first of all, the will itself. These are also affordable. We weren't supposed to have the extra 10% off, but we've got the extra 10% off all the offers that we have available for you. So the family estate and will, a suggested retail price of £209, offer price of £99, another 10% off brings it down to £89 to write your will. It really is a fabulous offer. With those 4 interest-free payments, just £22.25 on your first of 4 payments. Then the lasting power of attorney that we've just been talking about. Now, if you are in Scotland, there is a different document. It's a joint document, but the team can deal with that for you as well, so you can still get in touch. The lasting power of attorney, though, £199 reduced price on our sale price, comes down to a further £179, and with those 4 interest-free payments, just £44.75 on your first of 4 payments. But the biggest saving of all is if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney, a usual suggested retail price of £558, well, that comes right down with that extra 10% off to £242. It really is the time to do it. £60 and 50p on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And don't forget, if you do think today, sorry about me choking there, you just don't know what's around the corner, do you? This is why you've got to get these things done. If you do write, you know, think I need to write that will, so you just sign up for the will tonight, and then you're listening to the lasting power of attorney, think, God, I really perhaps should talk to them about that as well. They will happily change to the lasting power of attorney and the will, as long as you secure the deals tonight. Remember, that extra 10% off is a complete special. Shouldn't have been for this show at all, so please grab it. And do it now, though they will accept phone calls and texts and things up until Monday at 5 o'clock, but phone call wise they'll be shut over the weekend, so you need to text or get in touch via the website. You want to do it now, because then you won't forget, because it'll be Tuesday before you know it, and you'll think, why didn't I do it? But also you've got the opportunity to get this great book, and I do think everybody should have this book. It's worth £25, but you'll get it complimentary for the first 250 people. And this book, I think, is vital for anybody. I did say originally from birth, but it's a bit probably premature. But from working life, everybody should have this, shouldn't they? This information together.
It helps you take stock of everything that you've got. It's quite a cathartic process for some people when they sit down. It complements the will perfectly. But certainly in this digital age as well, it allows you to record things like your passwords and your pins for your devices.
You don't think about things like that, and they're so important, aren't they?
Yeah, I met with my cousins who I've not seen for well over a decade, and we were talking about our grandparents, and it turned out that some of my cousins have got some of my granddad's medals, and they've shared some photographs that we've got, but the photographs that they shared were all taken out, pictures out of an album.
Right.
So I've now got a digital image of stuff out of the album, which I've managed to keep safe, but they're now in my emails, but I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you know, we don't keep albums of things anymore.
No, hard copies.
I remember my parents having sort of the cellophane thing, and they all went.
Yeah.
a little
Oh
bit
gosh,
yellowy,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Writing on the back, Whitby 1972, that kind
And
of
it's
thing.
all locked in your tablet or locked
So
in
you
your
could
phone.
lose all that, because could you get someone's password? You wouldn't be able to, would you?
No.
Because only though
I think-
they might know it.
No, and I think it's well documented that even like people like the FBI in America can't crack the passwords on Apple phones and things like that. So whilst you wouldn't readily share this to people, it's really important to put it somewhere where it is accessible so that, you know, valuable information or access to photo albums and things like that.
Emails as well, because of course a lot of letters now. You'd be looking for letters originally, wouldn't you? But now it's emails.
Yeah, it's
A
on
family
your
member
email
actually,
account.
in your family, the gentleman died, wasn't expected at all, and they needed vital information off his tablet, and no one knew the password, and they were sat there, just, you know, how do we do this? And luckily, his grandson walked past and went, "I play on Granddad's tablet, and I know the password." Had he not, all that vital information would have been lost. So having this book that you're getting complimentary for the first 250 people, but we often run out of these, so do register tonight and secure that deal so you make sure you get this book. It's all that vital information.
All in one place. You're
yes.
not hunting round for it, searching
If you've
for it.
got a
It's all
mum
in
like
one
mine,
place.
she's got so many secret places, and you'd have no chance, would you, of finding
And the fact
anything.
It just make life so much easier, wasn't it? So the first 250 people who secure the offers will get that book as part of the offer.
And that could be actually finding a pension that you didn't know about. You know, there's so much lost in pensions, left in banks that should be in, you know, family members' pockets, really, and it's just sat in a bank somewhere. Or life insurances that you didn't know about. It's all in that book. It's vital.
It really is. Make sure you go for the offers. Make sure you get in touch. And remember, these offers are only valid till close of business on Monday. But what we would say is get in touch straight away. Those contact details, either the website, the phone, or you can text straight away.
Yeah, perhaps you just switched on. Well, you've switched on just at the right time. Have you got a will? If you haven't got a will, the government has a will for you, and it won't be what you want to happen to your, for your loved ones. So you have got a great opportunity tonight to get an amazing price, and all you need to do is get in contact right now, either via the website, so you don't have to talk to anybody, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. The team are on the phones though right now.
Yeah, they're there right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. You don't need any documents with you. It's just about securing those offers. They'll just take a few details and then they'll get back to you to secure your appointments.
And even if you're away for a couple of weeks, or you think, well, I can't really do it until so-and-so, they'll sort out the time that's right for you. You're just securing the prices tonight. So just get in contact tonight. And then the best way, the easiest thing, the busiest way always, because perhaps you don't want to speak to anybody right now. Perhaps you're going to bed, perhaps you're going out to work. Just text Will to 66777. Your phone is right there and it's done. You've secured the deal, you've secured the book, and then the team will get back to you perhaps later on today or Monday to sort out a time that's right for you to actually speak through your will or your lasting power of attorney. That's the easiest. I do all the competitions like that. I'm winning £450,000 tomorrow.
If only.
I know.
And it is about just taking that first step. Because
Yeah,
that's the thing
and
we
you
put
are
off.
winning.
Yeah.
If you take that first step today, because we do put everything off. My mum...
Ian always says, he talks about life getting in the way. Because as soon as you get up tomorrow, you've got to
It'll
get
be
kids
spring.
to school, you've got to get to work.
Then it'll be, it'll be Easter, it'll be birthdays, then it'll be the summer holidays, booking the holiday, then it'll be Christmas before you know it. My mum had her feet done today and booked an appointment for 6 weeks.
all
And we're
about
like,
your mum
oh
tonight.
my word. It's 6 weeks is like going into the summer, and you're
All
like,
the dates,
where is the time? And
So
before
just-
you know it, another year's gone,
Just
and you
start.
haven't done your will.
Yeah, just take that first step, start the process, get the ball rolling.
I think it's because me and my mum were so rubbish at actually doing things, and then you regret it, don't you?
And the
Why
relief
didn't I
when you've
just
done
do it? So just do it right now, and it's that peace of mind. And if it is a will you're thinking about, it's your last gift to your loved ones, and what you want to happen is actually going to happen, because it honestly won't if you haven't written a will.
You've nothing to lose
Yeah,
by
No,
exactly.
nothing
nothing
at
to
all.
lose by doing this at all. If you're unhappy with Charlotte or a member of her team at any point, you just turn around and say, this isn't for me, I'll have my money back, please.
And that's incredible.
Yeah, well,
So you've got nothing to lose.
No, look, we understand that you won't do this all the time, but Charlotte and her team do, so we'll hold your hand through the whole process.
Yeah.
We'll go at your pace, and at the end of it, the important thing is the document is yours. The will is in your name. The will is about you. It's about your estate. It's about your family. It's about your loved ones. It's got nothing to do with us at the end. We just facilitate you getting your document. But that is 1,000,000,000% better than just getting the default will from the government, which doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your family, and in some cases will rip those families apart. Please don't die intestate. Whilst it might seem like a difficult thing, texting the word will to 66777 could be one of the easiest things, whilst at the same time being one of the hardest things to do, because it's that first step.
I
If
think
your phone's
when...
there now, just do it.
Yeah,
because
do
you
it.
won't regret doing it.
We'll do
And this is
everything
what
else.
you
Yeah.
just referred to here.
I think people don't realise there's a government will if you haven't written your will yourself.
No, and I think, there isn't a lot of available information out there about this, and I don't think people also wake up on a Saturday morning and think, I'm going to, see what happens when I die, because, we're not built that way. We're not very good at sitting down and talking about what's happening.
Yeah.
Most people shut each other down, even if it's about funeral wishes or just like,
Yeah.
I want to be, I don't want to talk
don't wanna
about
talk
it.
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Well, if we don't talk about it, the sort of frustration, and it sounds selfish me saying frustration, but the frustration is things can go wrong that we know we could have fixed for not a lot of money and for not a lot of time. And sadly, unfortunately, every single day someone is passing away and families are going, that isn't what mom wanted or that isn't what dad wanted. And it's because they hoped that everything was going to work out the way that they thought it was. But the government will doesn't care about you or your family, because it can't. They've tried to revise it in the last century, and the only thing that's really changed are the figures to sort of keep it up to date.
And it's
Even
basically-
husbands and wives aren't guaranteed to get everything for each other.
It's not right for anybody. It's not right for us because we're not married, so...
Yeah, you would be entitled to nothing from each other.
Which is correct. We've been together 34 years, but we wouldn't be entitled.
The law is very, very clear.
So
There's no entitlement for unmarried partners.
So it wouldn't work for us. So where would if I passed away, where would they then go? What would be the next question?
The first question, if you passed away yesterday, the first question that would be asked of you is, were you married in a civil partnership?
That's a
It
no.
would be no. You get some people arguing, but surely the common law husband and wife,
Yeah.
there's no such thing. You're either married or you're not. So the next question would be, do you have children? If you didn't have children, the next question would, do you have parents?
So, yeah.
And it follows on in your bloodline, and wherever the answer becomes yes, is where it's distributed in
where-
equal shares.
And then it's not even right if you are, you might be married, but marriages are very different to 100 years ago.
Well, it's
and we're remarried, we've got
second-
children
yeah.
from different families, perhaps live as a family, stepbrothers and sisters who don't see each other as stepbrothers and sisters.
Yeah.
But it won't work for them either, and they're married in a family unit.
Again, it comes back to the bloodline issue. Because of the way that the rules of intestacy are written, it becomes a bit of a lottery. If you've got a blended family, we talk to a lot of clients who are on the second marriage, and that second marriage is much, much longer than perhaps their first marriage.
Yes, yeah.
But their first marriages might have given them children. So we're talking to couples who've each got children from previous relationships, but perhaps not children together. Or even if they have got children together, there's effectively almost 3 bloodlines, if you like. There's his, there's theirs, and there's hers.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, let's say Mr. passed away and he was married and his estate was worth less than 322,000. Well, under the rules of intestacy, his estate would all pass to his wife. But then when his wife passed away, if their intention, their wish was to treat all of those 3 children the same, actually only her child and their child would inherit. The child that he had to a previous relationship gets nothing. And people go, well, that can't be right because they're a family. But again, that's the problem with the rules of intestacy, is it cannot match everyone's
And I bet that
individual
tears
scenario.
families apart, doesn't it?
It sounds really melodramatic, but it doesn't. You imagine emotions
do.
are already high.
Yeah.
You're suffering a bereavement, and then you find out, or one child or a number of children find out they're not inheriting. And we often hear people say, oh, well, I'm sure the kids will sort each other out. But again, I don't know why you'd want to put that pressure on them to do that when you can do it legitimately, legally, by just speaking to Charlotte or a member of her team. So honestly, if your phone's next to you now, there's a reason you're listening to me this morning, and it might not be the first time, it might be the second, third, or fourth time. But please text the word will to 66777 or phone 0333 600 2600 now and speak to one of Charlotte's colleagues, because I promise you, no one ever regrets making that first step. No one.
Charlotte,
there's nothing to regret.
You always describe it like it's a weight lifted, isn't it?
Honestly, at the end of most consultations, clients will go, oh gosh, what a relief, that was a weight. I feel so much better now. And they might not even realise they were actually carrying that weight until you've actually gone through the consultation, and they're like, great, it's all in place, I've done something really good today.
I think a lot of people don't realise what you can do in a will as well.
I'm just going to say, because obviously Charlotte and her team, this is all they do. You don't come to us for a divorce, for a boundary dispute, for a personal injury claim. But if you want to protect your assets, look after your family and your loved ones, that's what Charlotte and the client care team do. So they're going to give you full advice as you go through, and you're going to make decisions what you do with that advice. But you're going to be fully informed at the end of it.
Because you might think you've got nothing, but actually that you've got a house, you've got a car, it might be your pets. There's so many things you can do with a will, isn't there?
Yeah, and also a big thing with wills that a lot of people don't realise is you can actually say where you don't want it to go.
Yeah.
That's so
A lot of people
true.
think where everything's going, but actually, you know, there are families out there that could be estranged from relatives who they don't want to inherit. So in a will as well, you can state that.
I don't want anything to go to so-and-so.
Yeah, definitely. You might not want anything to go to family, you want it all to go to charity.
Yes.
It's your wish. It's bespoke to you.
And something as well, children, and it's a horrible thing, again, to talk about, but if both parents died and they'd got young children, I mean, what happens to you can actually say who you want to look after your children, can't you?
Yeah, you can put a guardianship clause into a will to state who would look after your children should you pass away before they're the age of 18. If you haven't put that clause into your will, then you're essentially relying on the right person to step forward. And
that could cause upset, couldn't it? It could be both grandparents at once.
Yeah, if you've got a close family and you've got 2 sets of grandparents who, just want to take care of these children.
Yeah,
if they both step forward and then it becomes an argument and it's going through court, you've got these children that are under the age of 18 that have lost their parents, then got families arguing, fighting for them. Yeah, and in worst case scenario, they can end up being a ward of court at that point. Because the families are disputing it. So,
and I know another misconception, and we were talking about this weekend actually, because we were at a baptism. And we had obviously godparents.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're godparents to lots of children. I thought, my goodness, we could have a house full. Because you think as a godparent that you're responsible for those children, but actually that's not...
That's not legal, is it?
No, not at all.
No.
Obviously it's a religious position, it's a nice thing to be asked to do, but there's nothing legally binding about that at all, unfortunately. But it may very well be that your chosen godparents are the people you would want to be your child's guardian. But that's why it's so important to make a will. Because a will isn't just about passing on your watch or your bank account or your property. You can pass on your parental responsibility for all intents and purposes and name guardians. And again, it's such a selfless thing to do then, because if people are wondering where would you want your children to go, I mean, it's an awful thing. My wife and I have got 2 young boys. It's not something we want to think about, really, about not seeing them grow to be adults. But obviously, we've had a guardianship clause in our wills now. My eldest is going to be 16 this year.
Gosh.
But we've had a guardianship clause in our wills for the last 16 years. So we know that if life threw us a curveball and my wife and I did both pass away, we know that our boys are going to where we want them to go, to people who are like-minded, where they're going to be loved and they're going to be brought up right. And as a parent, that gives me quite a lot of peace of mind. I don't want to think about it happening, but can't be a hypocrite. Practice what you preach. I went to that dark place for a minute. Jeannie and I spoke and said, if the worst happened, where we want them to go? We unanimously said the same people. Spoke to them, said, would you be happy to do that? Obviously, happy is perhaps the wrong word, but of course they said yes, and that was lovely for us as parents. We know that we've done the best that we can for our boys, and that, you know, there's going to be no arguments, there's going to be no confusion. Making a will is really, really selfless, but you will definitely get something out of it because you'll realise what you're doing, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. It's really, really important. I can't stress it enough. It's one of the most invaluable things that you can do for your family. It's your last gift to them on planet Earth. And your last act on planet Earth should be yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the government has enough control over our lives. The last thing you want is a piece of legislation determining everything that you worked hard for, not caring about your family, not caring about your wishes, not caring about you at all, because it can't. That isn't a criticism, it's just an observation. The rules of intestacy is there to be a default position, a backup. That's all it was ever going to be. But I think a lot of people don't realise that's even their backup, and that's the problem. Don't die intestate, please. Text the word will tonight, phone us tonight, do something amazing for yourself tonight. You won't regret you did it.
And why do you think people don't get round to it? Do you think they just don't get round to it?
I think we've said it before. I think it's a misconception. They believe it might not happen to them.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, it will be okay.
We presumed it would be all right.
I've said what you say. I've said what my wishes are to all my family.
Yeah,
all my
and we're all guilty.
I hear that quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah, we do, and we're all guilty of, oh, we'll do that later, aren't we? We do it every single day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it goes to the bottom of the list, or it gets pushed down for something else. But if you just do it, it's done.
And it's so
and
important.
It's so much more powerful than you think.
Yeah.
And just to be really clear, you know, some people might think, well, I'm too young to make a will.
Yes.
The only time to do it is now, because we only ever have now. You know, you can't do anything yesterday because it's gone. You can't do anything tomorrow because it's never promised. So you can only act now. But the thing is the way that we work as well, and we'll hold your hand through all of this, is just because the will's right for you now, it might not be right for you in 5 years. Well, we can help you with that. We help keep the will up to date.
So if anybody's watching and they've done a will, but they're now not sure if they've done it correctly or if it's up to date or if it's right, can they get in contact with you?
Yeah,
available
definitely.
to anyone, whether it's the first will or whether they've done an existing will. You know, or even if they've got a will now and they're not sure about it, we'll check it for them. Great. You know, if you want to scan it
It's been in the press actually a lot recently about how important wills are. There was a programme on just the other day, and I don't think we realise whatever situation you're in, whether you're single with no children, you know, what you've worked so hard for, you want it to go to who you want it to go to. And there's a story where a gentleman died and he hadn't, his dad left him when he was a baby, but because he died without a will and he had no wife, no children, the money went to his mum and dad.
I think we should tell that again.
And that's devastating, because I think lots of you will sit at home. If you're like us, you're not married, you're not entitled to anything from each other if you haven't written a will. If you're married and you've got children from different families, again, it gets really complicated about first deaths and things, and which children do get and which children don't.
Unless you've got it written down. And
but
it
if
can
you
be really
are,
straightforward.
It's a will is needed by everybody, isn't it? I didn't realise that was so important as well.
Yeah, because everyone's situation is different. It's really difficult to pinpoint why you need it, but that's the whole point. You need it because if you don't, you get the same will as everybody else. And that same will isn't about you, it's about there being a default position. Because legally, if you think about it logically, if you don't make your own will, there has to be a backstop, and that backstop is the rules of intestacy. So when people are saying, oh, it'll be okay because I want this to happen, I want that to happen, and I've told my eldest son, that's an irrelevance, unfortunately, because when you pass away, we live in a land of law. You have either passed away with a valid will in place or you haven't, and if you haven't, the government give you that will, and that's not what you want. That's why we do these shows. It's like, please don't die intestate. Please, when you pass away, make sure that your last act on planet Earth is yours and that the will's reflective of what you want to do. You know, you've worked hard for everything you've got. You know how you want that to be distributed. And even if you don't, that's why you should speak to someone like Charlotte or a member of our client care team, because they'll hold your hand and help you through what it is that you want to achieve, and that might happen in a few seconds, that might take a little bit longer. We'll go at your pace. But what we always guarantee and what we always promise is at the end of it, it'll be your will. And that means it is your, you know, your last act on planet Earth.
Because we're all bespoke, aren't we? I know there's another story about a lady, she'd separated from her husband, but they weren't divorced. She'd been living with a guy in a house for longer than she'd been with her husband. And she didn't realise when she came to you that had she passed Her
She's
partner
still
that
married.
she'd been with for so long
Yeah,
wouldn't have been entitled to anything because it would have all gone to her husband.
yeah, she'd put her life with this partner. We're still married, and obviously her and her partner saw themselves as everything was going to each other, but legally, without a will, everything would have passed to spouse, and she was still married. So this home and family that she'd built with her partner, again, would have been torn apart by just not taking that step.
And
and
the only reason for not having a will is she just didn't realise that.
yeah, a lot of people don't. And you go about life, don't you?
Yeah, we've had similar situations where people choose, for whatever reason, not to divorce but just to separate, and then again
Yes,
life
quite a
gets in the
lot.
way, and they're like, well, we'll just carry on.
Yeah.
It's not hurting anything.
They might have a good
particularly.
relationship as well. But
Yes, yeah.
you know, and just think it's not going to affect them.
There was one where they were both still named on a property as joint tenants as well, which meant if one of them passed away, their share of their property was going to go to their husband or wife when neither of them wanted that to happen.
Oh,
But
gosh.
that's what was going to happen, again, to the exclusion of the new families that they were both with. So, and I understand why people don't think about this, because I don't think about how you do a root canal, but that's because I'm not a dentist. You know, I don't think about how a combustible engine works because I'm not a mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we only think about what we're doing every single day, but we try and do these shows just to get you to think about it just for a few minutes, because I promise you, it is something that needs to be thought about. And if you're thinking about doing it, please don't put it off.
No.
Because tomorrow morning you'll wake up and this will be a distant memory and you'll just get on with your life again. And that means you've still not got this plan in
Yeah,
place.
life is so busy, isn't it? And all of a sudden, it'll be Tuesday, it'll be Easter, it'll be summer. You'll be booking a summer holiday, and before you know it, it'll be Christmas again. And we'll go, where did the year go? And you haven't done it. And at one point, it'll just be too late. And the worst thing ever, and obviously I don't know what happens, but I like to think my dad watches down and checks we're all okay. And can you imagine looking down, the whole family's fallen out because you didn't write that will?
Because you didn't write down what you wanted to happen. Emotions are so high at that time, aren't they? It is about getting such a great deal on it as well.
I think we also put things off because we think it's going to be expensive. We
Yes.
think it's going to be complicated. I'm scared to death of law or anything. I will
Anything
say,
official.
yeah, I'll say the wrong thing. I'll say
through customs.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I've actually stripped off to everything. I still beeped. I was like that. I must be carrying something. Find it. You know, I was like, I'm guilty for everything. But it's so easy, honestly. Simply law. They hold your hand. You'll talk to someone like Charlotte, who's with us in the studio. It'd be just like sitting with us now and having a conversation. You don't even need to know the answers because they'll chat you through everything. And I know for me, I never felt I asked a silly question, which I normally always do. And afterwards, I thought, oh, I didn't ask that. Felt quite confident that I could just email and say, oh gosh, I forgot to ask you this, is this right? And it's all done at your pace, and they couldn't be more helpful.
No. Let's run you through those offers that we've got for you.
Well, prices are amazing tonight.
We have managed to get an extra 10% off the reduced prices for you. It wasn't supposed to happen. We did a one-off show. So many people missed out. We've managed to get the same deals again for you. So if you want to go for the will, suggested retail price of £209, the offer price less than £100, but with that extra 10% off, it comes down to £89.
That is so good, isn't it?
Don't even have to pay that though, because Simple Law will offer you those 4 interest-free payments, £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free
And
payments.
£22.25. Think about what you spend on coffee right now, just in a week.
Yeah.
So easily you spend that. I heard our producer say I could spend that in a day on coffees. Coffees are so expensive. So that's your will done. It's your last gift for your loved ones, done for £89, but then you can split that cost over those 4 payments. It makes it so affordable. There's no reason not to do it. And do it tonight, otherwise you will forget. But then you've got the lasting power of attorney, which we'll go into more detail with that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a moment. £49 is the suggested retail price. The normal price, or reduced price, I should say, is down to less than £200. But with the extra 10% off, £179. And then with those 4 interest-free payments, just £44.75 on your first of 4 payments. Hayley was saying that's the cost of a takeaway a week, isn't it? £44.75 for a lasting power of attorney on that first of 4 payments. But then the biggest saving is if you go for the combination, you go for the will and the LPA. A usual suggested price of $558 comes down to $269 on our offer price, but with the extra 10% off, £242 and just £60.50 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And the great thing is, once you've secured your prices, and we'll tell you how to do that, you've secured them. So if you've secured it thinking, I'm just going to do the will, that's great, but then you stay with us a little bit longer and learn more about the lasting power of attorney. Think, oh, I wish I'd done the two together. They'll be quite happy to alter it to that, as long as you secure your deals. And don't forget, we will explain the book as well. The first 250 people will get the book, which is brilliant. But I think we should say how to get in touch, because this is so important. I would take a photograph of this, because this is that first step to actually getting something done.
So it's simple and straightforward. simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV will make sure you get those exclusive prices that we've got for you. You can call the call centre right through till 3 a.m. The team are right there, ready to take your calls.
And they're great. They're just like Charlotte, aren't they?
Really friendly.
You might have a couple of questions to ask, and you know, they can answer a couple of questions, but obviously they're there just to get your name and to know that you want to secure the deal. They'll get back in touch with you later on.
You don't need any documents. 0333 600 2600. But the busiest way on these evening shows at this time of night is always the texting service. Your phone's probably in your hand right now. You're probably multi-screening, looking at something else. Text the word will to 66777 and the team will get back to you either later today or on Monday. The offer is available to the close of business on Monday, but do it now. Take that first step.
Do it now so you definitely get the book. The book is worth £25. It's for the first 250 people. But do it now, because you know it'll be Tuesday before you know it. And you'll think, oh, it was close of business last night, wasn't it? I was meant to do it. I did that on flights and they'd gone up £600 because I'd forgotten that the deal was only until the actual 1st of October, and a weekend break as well. Yeah. And you think, why didn't I just do it? And it's just that step today to make sure you've secured those prices. And even if you're away for the next 2 weeks, you can sort out a time that's right for you to actually sit down and chat about it.
You can also go through our website, is shopontv.co.uk. Just scroll down the page and you'll see our on-screen partners there. Click on Simpler Law. The offers are there, and then you just fill in that form. Really straightforward. Just fill that in and you have secured those offers.
And remember, that extra 10% shouldn't have been. That's the truth. We came to work tonight not realising we had an extra 10%. It was an offer for our last show. It was a one-off. But because so many people did miss out and forgot to get in contact before close of business, and that we're like, please, we want that extra 10%. Simpler Law very kindly have given us another show with it. So do grab it whilst you've got that extra 10% off.
People absolutely love Simpler Law. The Trustpilot reviews that we've got to share with you. Well, take a look at some of these. Kalina said this: it was very easy and pleasant. Michael was very nice and professional. He answered all my questions straight away and his explanation was very thorough.
The nice thing is it's always names,
It's always the people who you deal with.
Yeah.
It's so important that it's so personal, that service.
Well, they become friends, really. We dealt with Simpler Law a few years ago for my mum's lasting power of attorney, and they become a friend, you know. So you, rather than talking to Simpler Law, you're talking to Michael.
Linda said this: I'd like to thank Shane for all his help while sorting out my will and power of attorney. He was most helpful and patient, answering all my questions. Thank you again, Shane. I will most certainly recommend your company to family and friends who haven't already got themselves sorted. We also had a great email in during the show tonight, talking about, she's going through the process of doing her will right now. Ellie messaged in, didn't she?
She did, and she said, just to say, I'm in the process with Ruby at Simpler Law, and I can say she has been so good. She told me exactly what I needed to give her, and she is sorting everything out for me.
Crazy.
And that is the thing, you're passing it on, and Simpler Law, Ellie, Shane, whoever
Charlotte.
it may be, they're sorting it out for you because they know what they're doing.
And they do it day in, day out. They're experts in the field. So you don't have to worry about anything.
Or doing anything wrong or getting it wrong.
You don't have to have the answers, do you?
No, not at all.
The team will find the answers.
As we sit down having a conversation today, that's just how you'll sit down with whether it's Michael or Shane or Charlotte, and you'll have that conversation. They'll get all the information out of you. And as I mentioned earlier, we did Mum's lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law before we knew they were working with us here on Shop, and before we worked here on Shop on TV. But you might be at home thinking, I've heard that word, lasting power of attorney.
I think we should
what
go,
is it?
yeah, right back to the beginning when it comes to lasting powers of attorney, Charlotte. Can you explain what it actually means, what it is?
Yeah, so powers of attorney, these are documents that allow you to nominate who you trust to make decisions for you if you're unable to make decisions for yourselves. So if you've lost your capacity through ill health, it could be a freak accident, they allow you to nominate who you trust to make decisions for you. But the importance of these documents is you have to do them whilst you've got capacity. Because if you've lost your capacity for any reason,
too late.
it's then too late to put these documents in place. Yeah, we'll go through the Court of Protection, but that's the only option if you haven't already done them.
And I think there's misconceptions because you would presume if you looked after a loved one now, so if you looked after your mum, your dad, you know, I look after mum and I help her loads, that instantly if she was poorly, that I could step into her shoes and control all her bills and things, but that's not the case at all, is it?
No, I think it's a hope a lot of people have, and yeah, just the misconception that you wouldn't be able to do it now.
No, that's...
if you try
when you say that, you think, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's silly really, isn't it? Because you don't really think about it that much. But if you went to the bank now and said, can I take some money out of my mum's account, the first thing they say is, are you the account holder? Yeah, you've got the data protection. So that's while they've got capacity. If that person's then lost their capacity, they're vulnerable, it's even more difficult. So, yeah, I think it's just something not a lot of people like to think about, is it really? What will happen if they do lose capacity and can't make their own decisions?
And there are two different types, aren't there, when it comes to lasting power of attorney?
Yes.
Unless you're in Scotland and then it's a joint document, but you can deal with that as
Yeah.
well. But let's talk about property and affairs first of all. This is the first one.
Property and financial affairs. So, as we said, you nominate who you trust, could be family, could be friends. They step into your shoes and they can go to the bank, they can access your accounts, pay your bills, manage any finances, manage any investments that you've got. Property, they can sell and buy property, rental property as well. A lot of people have rental properties
Things
now.
you wouldn't even think about. Perhaps you'd need to sell the house for them to go into a home and things, but you wouldn't have that control, would you?
No, exactly. You wouldn't be able to do any of those things, but these things don't stop either. Just because you've got capacity, bills still need to be paid, money still needs to come into your account, so these do still need to be managed. So it's about you having the choice and saying, I trust this person or these people to do that for me. On a power of attorney document, you're called the donor because you are donating your power, your voice to that person.
Oh, does it have to be a family member that you donate your voice to?
It can be a friend. It's your choice.
Who you trust.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And there's two documents. We'll go into the health one as well, but there's a financial and a health. You might think you've got a son and a daughter, and the son would be really good for the finances,
right? Yeah,
and the daughter would be really good for the health.
Right.
Yeah,
you might put them both on each document. Again, it's your choice and who you think would be best for the role. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant, isn't
the funny one is when a client says there's no point putting my son down for the financial
we do get
He's useless with money. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
No choice. I was like, I love him, but I don't trust him.
Yeah, exactly. And without going too in depth with it, you can also put a full attorney on there and a replacement. So if anything was to happen to your main attorney, you've also got a backup.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
so
there's
advice.
Talk you
through all your
exactly.
Because, you know, you can put certain conditions in there, you can say how they work together, how they don't work together.
Yeah.
Again, it's your document. But more importantly, it's something that you do today whilst you can.
Yes.
And then hope that you never need to use it. But at least you know that if life did throw you that curveball, you've done everything you can to make it as easy as possible for the people around you to look after you and to take care of you. But more importantly, the people that are going to step into your shoes are the people that you want to step into your shoes and the people that you trust. So you make this document and then hope you never need to use it.
Yeah, so the most important thing is just doing it now.
So that's the first one, the financial one.
Yeah.
And that's the first one that you do.
Yeah, that's what we came to you for, and I didn't realise there was a second one. And when you explained the second one, I was like, that's just as important, Mum. We need to get both, because I think the second one is really personal, isn't it? Health and welfare.
Health and welfare, yeah. So again, nominating who you trust to step into your shoes. They can discuss where you're living. So if they want you to live at home with them and care for you themselves, they can make that choice. If you do need to go into a care home, they can decide where that is. It could be one that's closer to them, could be one that they think is nicer for you. Again, they're making that choice. They're your voice.
Because you know that person, you know what they would want and where they want to be.
Yeah, and even down to what you're eating, what you're wearing, which are really, really personal things. Because as we've said previously, if you're a vegetarian, if you like to wear certain clothes, if you like to wear a certain shade of lipstick, you like to have your hair done.
That's it, it's so important.
Only your loved ones or people that are close to you are going to know that. So giving them that power allows them to make that choice and keep you as you
Yeah.
when you don't have that voice to do it for yourself. So it's really, really important for you and your loved ones in that scenario, I think, because they're going to want to be able to do that for you.
Definitely.
And it makes their lives easier as well, because
Yeah, what does happen then if you haven't got lasting power of attorney and something happens to a loved one? It might be a husband, it might be a parent,
Yeah.
and obviously you want to be, help and look after them. What do you do to be in control?
Yeah, so in that scenario, if it's too late, if you haven't got that power of attorney in place, the only route to go down then is applying to what's called the Court of Protection. So it doesn't matter what relationship you've got, you wouldn't be able to make decisions for that person because they've lost their capacity, they're vulnerable. They need to be protected at that point.
Yeah.
The courts don't know who you are. You could be a wife, you could be a child, but do you have that relationship?
Yeah.
So you're relying on the right person to step forward, which might not be the person you want. So they have to apply to what's called the Court of Protection for a deputyship order. Now, not only could it not be the person that you want it to be, but as you can see on the screen there, there's a high cost for this.
And obviously you've got to find this money because you can't use your loved one's money.
You can't access any of their money, and it's more expensive than just putting the power of attorney in place. You can see there, to apply alone is £408. You've got the assessment fee and the hearing fee, and the supervision fee is actually annual. So that is ongoing. And that is if you do it yourself, that total fee there. That's not if you have any professional help.
And of course, our price is not £199 like you see on that full
Further
page.
reduction,
We've got an extra 10% off today, so it's £179 for the property affairs and £179 for the health and welfare. So this is a massive amount of money that you've somehow got to find to try and look after your loved one.
Yeah.
But then it also takes a really long time, doesn't it?
It's a really prolonged process. Yeah, it's awful. The Court of Protection has been overhauled a couple of times by the Ministry of Justice, but it's still massively backed up, and it's taken anywhere up to a year for the deputyship order to be granted, if you're lucky enough for it to be granted. A year. Yeah.
Your loved one might have died in that time.
Sadly, that's not uncommon.
And also, sorry to interrupt you there, as you just mentioned there, you might not even be granted the deputyship. You could go through that in worst case not actually even be granted that either.
And all your focus is then...
Yeah, you want to look after your loved one.
That's why it's a selfless thing to do, a lasting power of attorney. You know, for you, that the people that you've named as your attorneys, are the people that you trust and who you want to step into your shoes. So that's brilliant for you. But it's brilliant for them as well, because literally all they have to do is register it with the Office of the Public Guardian. We'll talk you through all of that. Sometimes there's an additional fee to pay there, but it's either free, £41 or £82, so nothing like the thousands that you have to pay for the Court of Protection. But once that document's registered with the Office of Public Guardian, your attorneys then can just act. They're not supervised because you made it clear when you had capacity, you trusted these people to act on your behalf. And there are safeguards when you're putting this document together to make sure that you're not being coerced into it. So it's really important that you do it for yourself. I think quite rightly, we wake up on a morning, throw the quilt cover back and get on with our lives and don't think too much about how much involvement we have in what we do every single day. I'm fortunate enough just to have moved house, and we've done that. My wife said, should we do the Royal Mail redirect? I'm like, oh, I've gone online and done everything. The mail redirects happened today. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell that company. Oh, I forgot to tell that. I've not changed the address on my driving licence. But we forget just how many institutions and companies that we actually deal with, and how easy that is when we're okay. What, in a click of a finger, that can become very, very difficult. And for all the reasons we've already talked about, just getting through a data protection barrier. The second you want to speak to someone, even if you're not wanting to change anything transactionally, if you're not the account holder...
They don't want to know, no.
They won't talk to you, and that's understandable. We'd all be furious if we could walk into each other's banks and just access money. And I think that's what's sort of confusing for people who are married or are in a serious relationship and have been for a number of years. There's that assumption or hope that, well, we'd just be able to look after each other. But again, without the correct authority and the right document in place, you just can't. I
think a lot of people as well with lasting the power of attorney, and I think we were very much like this, you think you need it for an older relative because they're older. But actually it's so important to do it right now, because even as a married couple, if your partner fell poorly, you could lose control of your finances, couldn't you, in situations?
There was something on the One Show many years ago, and it was a woman who explained that her husband got knocked over and unfortunately fell into a coma, and she explained that he was the one that managed all the finances because that's how their relationship worked. And I think a lot of couples are like that. Sometimes in their relationship, there's kind of, you know, I do the washing and ironing at home and Jeannie, you know, spends the money. Many a true word said in jest. But, you know, there's often one person that takes a little bit more responsibility or all the responsibility for managing the finances. And this story was that, unfortunately, the husband got knocked over, fell into a coma and was in a coma for 3 years. And his wife never dealt with any of the finances. So not only was she suddenly plunged into this awful situation, but she then also had no authority because her husband dealt with everything.
Oh,
Gosh.
Now, she'd got wills, but she hadn't got lasting powers of attorney, so then she did have to apply for the court of protection. But she also explained that she went to pay her daughter's tuition fees, and because they were more than the limit imposed on the court, she had to actually ask the court for permission to pay her own daughter's tuition fees. So that's how restrictive that process can be. Whereas if it created a lasting power of attorney and said, I want my wife to act on my behalf, you know, step into my shoes, she wouldn't have had to do any of that.
And even if you've got a joint account, which I know our producer went, really? Even if you're married with a joint account?
Yeah, by definition, you've both got to have capacity. I mean, the British Banking Association actually say that the account should be frozen for very good reasons, because when you're doing something jointly, you've both got to agree to it jointly. Yeah. If one of you's lost capacity, you can't agree to it. So property can get frozen, bank assets get frozen. It can get really messy really quickly, and it feels really harsh because you're having to deal with something awful.
Absolutely.
But again, this is the legal position, and it sounds a little bit crass when I say if you think about it logically, because we don't think about these things. But if we can't go in and access these things while our partner or our husband or our wife is fit and well, how do we expect to do that when they're not fit and well? So that's the importance of the lasting power of attorney. It's a document you want to have and then hope that you never ever need to use it.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
We did mums, and it's just a weight off your shoulders, and then you do completely forget about it, never think about it. But until we do a show, it's just there, so you know you've just got that peace of mind. And we insure so many things, don't we? And it's not an insurance, but in a way it sort of is. Yeah, what if. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, what if that happened and you know you've got the right documents and they've been signed properly? Because we signed ours incorrectly, which we wouldn't have known. Yeah. But you noticed, because our neighbour had been my mum's neighbour all the time she's lived in our family home. We've known her, I've babysat for her children, we know her really, really well. We didn't know that the name we called her was actually her middle name. So when she actually came to sign things and things, it was all back to front, and the one was one way, and you were like, "What's this? This isn't right." Yeah. And had you not have pointed that out, had we needed that document, it would have been signed incorrectly.
Yeah, and this is where we say it's a hand-holding service through the whole process. We will help you. We offer a free validation service, so we don't just complete your consultation, give you your wills, and off you go. We make sure it is signed correctly, and we'll validate that for you so that you know it is legal and it is in place.
And it's really important with the lasting power of attorney, because again, heartbreakingly, there might be people that have got a lasting power of attorney and gone, oh, do you know what, I'll sign that next week. Yeah. Goes in the top drawer and then they never get around to it.
Don't.
Which is why we even go to the length of chasing people and in the nastiest way saying, you've not sent it back for us to check. And they're like, oh, thank you for that. And I'd forgotten about it. It's like, so in this digital age, as I said, at the moment, you know, wills and lasting powers of attorney without the wet signatures on and correctly dated, signed and witnessed, it's not valid, and we make sure that that's done for you. And
that's why when we were talking about wills earlier, those templates don't work, do they? Because if you sign it wrong, well, there's no witness correctly.
There's no advice provided from it. There's you know, we provide signing guides, we provide signing videos. You know, we've got a team on hand to speak to you over the phone. You know, this is what we do for a living. This is what we do day in, day out. This is what we specialise in. And it isn't just about taking your instruction now, giving you a document saying thanks very much, goodbye, good luck. We're there for the rest of your life. We're there from the point that you take it out to the point of need. Yeah. And we'll help you throughout that whole process. We even offer a bereavement service, which is the practical side of it. We'll help the family throughout. So you're dealing with a professional company that's going to be there from day one until you actually...
And it's all those sort of things that you deal with. You don't deal with sort of divorces or insuring your, I don't know, your toaster. It is all about
No, Charlotte's not suddenly going to turn around and say, so can you tell me about your toaster insurance?
Yeah, I would know nothing.
I mean, we specialise in private client legal services. You see it there on the screen. It's all it's all to do with estate planning. It's all to do with you protecting your assets and protecting your loved ones. We're part of a wider group of a legal group. We manage in the region of £600 million of assets for our clients. We protect those for their beneficiaries. So we're professional trustees in that respect. We can draft trusts, we can draft wills, we can draft lasting powers of attorney. We can help with the conveyancing that's all attached with that. What that means to our clients is we don't actually outsource any work whatsoever.
Fabulous.
All the qualifications, all the experience, all the expertise is in-house, which means we control the quality of the work, and it means we control how quickly we can get those documents to you.
And I think that's why you're award-winning, because it's down to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a very personal service, and your team are, when you see the 5-star reviews, it's names, and I think you so deserve that award.
No, that was a nice night. I might have had one glass too many that night.
No,
only one.
But it was nice. I think someone said, and very recently actually, that it can take years and years and years and years to become an overnight success. But you know, this has evolved over decades. You know, and through the team that we've got, the client care team, through the administrative support, everyone within the group, you know, plays their part to make sure that our clients get the right document accurately and as quickly as possible. And
it's done right, because there are templates out there, aren't there? And there's lots of stories about those. Or what's the story of it? Did you see that look?
The face when
there was
when
also
a template.
A gentleman, I don't know if he did a template or he just wrote his will, and he wanted to give everything to his friend that had looked after him.
It basically jotted down almost on a napkin that I want my house. Everyone knows I want my house to go to Bob, which is great, but it wasn't signed, it wasn't witnessed.
You can't do that.
No, it's meaningless. It's ended up going to a second cousin in Canada or something like that, and everybody that knew him and everybody that knew, everyone knows that's not what should have happened. It's not what he wanted to happen. But I think also a lot of people assumed that he had sort of sorted it out, because I think that was slightly different because they knew that it wasn't a family member. So it's weird, they kind of, I think he must have to do something.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes families are like, well, it'll just be automatic, or, you know, long-term partners or married couples. The sweeping statement I can make with absolute certainty is, unless you make your own will, nothing is certain.
Yeah.
When you make your own will, you know that what you want to happen is going to happen because it's your will. You've documented what you want to happen, so it cares about you. We care about you. It cares about your family, cares about your estate, cares about what you want to happen because it's yours. The rules of intestacy don't care about anything. It's just a backstop. If you think about it, every single adult walking around in the UK now who hasn't taken the time to make their own will gets exactly the same will. Exactly the same template from...
It just doesn't make sense, does it?
No, and
it's not going to work for anybody.
It just stops anarchy, because it just means... It's a really simple question when you pass away, unfortunately. Did you die with a will, or did you die without one? And if you died without one, don't worry, the government will give you one. And you don't want the government will.
And you don't, whatever situation you're in.
People won't know about this.
No, we had no idea, and I think so many people don't realise that if you haven't physically written a proper will, you know, legally written a will with someone like Simple Law, that we then go down this road where it could go to somebody you really didn't want it to go to.
Yeah, I mean, when you make your own will, you know, we talk a lot about who benefits and who doesn't. But there's a lot of families, and sometimes we've had clients who've said that they've put off making a will because they might be a little bit embarrassed or even ashamed that the relationship's broken down with the son or the daughter. And yet they also know that they'd be devastated because of whatever the reasons were behind that if that son or daughter was to inherit. And unfortunately, very often we'll get phone calls from distraught children whose parents have now passed away, and they're sort of saying, they made it clear to me that my brother was to get nothing, but apparently he's getting half. Is that right? And we're like, well, did they make a will? And they're like, no. Well, yeah, if they've got children, it's going to your children in equal shares. Yeah. And sometimes parents think it's enough to say to the son or daughter, just make sure our Johnny or our Carol doesn't get anything. So again, it always comes back to whatever you want to happen, it needs to be in your will in a legally binding document. That's why we do these shows, because I don't think people I don't think that information is
We,
readily
no,
available.
we had no idea. We presumed we've been together 34 years. Obviously, everybody knows what's mine's Sean's, what Sean's is mine, but that would not have been
not
the
the
case
case.
at all.
Definitely
Did you? Did you see his face then?
Why I wrote it down.
But it honestly would not have been, and you presume that you've been together
Yeah.
forever, and you
Is
presume
that-
if you're married, even if you're on a second marriage and your children from different families, that it would all be split between the family just beautifully, and it won't be. I don't see the government will, which will fall in place instantly if you haven't written a proper will, is right for anybody, whatever situation you're in.
And it's so simple. It's so straightforward.
And it's so
for you to do.
affordable.
Yeah, and tonight is about starting that process, just taking that first step, which is often the hardest, isn't it? The offers that we've got available for you through Simpler Law, who are, remember, experts in the field. That's why it's worth starting the process tonight. So we'll start off with the will itself. Family estate and will should be £209. It's £99. No, it's not, because we've got the extra 10%
Now,
off.
that really shouldn't have been. It was a one-off for our last show, but lots of people missed out. There is a deadline for this, and lots of you missed out. So please, can you do this offer again? So they very kindly, for this show, allowed us this extra 10% off. So £89 is your price. You can split that over 4 payments. £89, and you know what you've worked so hard for. It's going to go to who you want it to go to. And you're splitting that cost to 4 payments of £22.25. Just have a little think now how much you spend on cups of coffee.
That could be
Possibly
a lunch, one
just
lunch.
in a week. Yeah, absolutely. You can spend that in an instant.
That's the equivalent of just over 70p a day.
Gosh.
It's
when you-
nothing,
when
is
you
it?
think about that, yeah.
You know, and you've done so, you know you've got that peace of mind that what you've worked so hard for, what you want to happen to what you've got will actually happen. Now, the lasting power of attorney, we've been talking about that. We got an incredible deal on that as well.
Yeah, suggested retail price there, £349. Our normal offer price, just under 200, 199. But with the extra 10% off, this is why these shows are so busy. You've got such a great deal. £179 or £44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Think about £44.75, what that will buy you.
Well, our takeaway's more than that.
Yeah, yeah. It's
and-
not even, well, it's just over half a tank of petrol.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And then whatever you know, as long as you get in touch tonight and secure the deals, you might just secure for the will. You think, yeah, I'll do the will. We've got to get a will. We've been meaning to do it forever. And if I do secure it tonight, we know we're going to do it. But then you might sit and listen a little bit longer and think, oh, why didn't I do the lasting power of attorney alongside the will? The savings, £316. Should have done the two. Well, you can just say, well, actually, I want to add on the lasting power of attorney. I know because you've secured the deal, they will allow you to do that. And £558 is the regular price for that. But because you're saving £316, it actually goes down to £242. Shouldn't be. Should be £269. But of course, for this show, you have got that extra 10% off. But you do need to register, and you need to do that. Right, I would say right now. You have got up until close of business on Monday, but I would do it right now because sadly I know you'll forget if you're like me, and it'll be Tuesday and you'll think, why didn't I do it? The other reason to do it right now, by the way, is the book. The first 250 clients will receive this book, and I think everybody, as soon as you start working, you should have this book.
Basically, you record everything that you need in here, from your assets, your bank accounts. It could be passwords for your tablets or your phones, life insurance policies, pensions, your life plans, what you want to happen. It can all be written down in one place. So when someone passes away, it makes it that little bit easier, doesn't it? Because you're not searching here, there and everywhere for everything.
Everything's in
It's
there.
all in
And
that
passwords for tablets now are so important. You just won't realise. It might just be for photographs that are just on that tablet, but you can't get them. But lots of vital information and emails. A family member that exactly that happened, they needed information off a tablet. No one knew the password, apart from luckily the grandson heard and said, oh, I know the password for Grandad's tablet because I use it. But if you haven't got that information, you know, there's no way of getting it. But it's all in that book.
It makes everything so much more complicated, doesn't it? You've seen the offers. How to get in touch? Well, this is really simple and straightforward. Also, first of all, you can go to the website, Simpler Law directly, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. The call centre, the team are in there right now, right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. Ready to take your calls, but you don't need any documents.
No,
you don't need to know
the
anything.
teams are fantastic, and when you read the 5-star reviews, that they comment on people's names because they become friends. They're right there waiting for you. If you've got a couple of questions, you can ask a couple of questions, but they are really there to take your details and get back to you to sort out a time that's right for you. Don't worry if you're going on holiday for a couple of weeks. Perhaps you're going tomorrow. You can sort out a time for them to get in contact to sort out a day that's right for you to all sit down and talk about the will or the lasting power of attorney. But one of the best ways of doing it is by texting. Your phone will be right by you. You're probably sort of looking at your phone and watching the TV at the same time. Just text Will to 66777. I do all the competitions like that. And I know this isn't a competition, but the fact is you will be a winner because you've taken that first step that we tend to put off, don't we? And you know that you will actually get that will in place. And it's so important.
It's like you say, it is the one thing that you need to do is start the process.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing.
It is, isn't it? And it's so silly.
Yeah, it's the easiest thing. The easiest thing in the world to text the word
Yeah.
66777. But the hardest thing is actually making the decision to do it. But once you've made that decision, you'll never look back.
We're just so good at putting things off, aren't we?
Yeah,
and then life takes over and we've
sure,
forgotten.
I'm sure in our own minds until you've been through this process, so you can't understand, until you've got to the end of the consultation, you won't realise how valuable this has been. And I will say something again, that if you get to the end of the consultation, you go, that's not for me, we'll just give you your money back. Because we know when you get to the end of the consultation, you'll be glad that you did it. But we can only help you if you take that most difficult step, which is to text us or phone us now. And as I said, people don't regret doing it. At the end, I've never heard a consultation finish with, I wish I'd not done that. It always ends with, thank you, and I'm glad I did that, because they also might learn something in that consultation that they couldn't have possibly known until they spoke to us. That I had no idea that was going to happen. Oh my God, what if I hadn't done a will?
Yeah.
Very true.
So let's be honest, there are sexier things to spend your money on than a will. You know, you're not going to wake up and go, what am I going to buy today? I want to buy a will. You know, there's things that we want to spend our money on, and a will isn't at the top of that list. And yet, really, and I know I'm incredibly biased, it should be.
It should be, yeah.
Everything you've worked hard for, your last act on planet Earth, please don't let it be the government will. Make sure it's yours and make sure it's done correctly by someone like Charlotte or a member of our
Because that is the case. If you haven't got a will, there is a government will, and it will not be what you want to happen. It may be that what you want to go to your loved ones actually goes to someone you honestly didn't want it to go to, or it may just be completely wrong. It's completely wrong for everybody, that government will. You must write your own.
We'll go more into depth in that in just a few minutes. We want to share some of the reviews.
Yeah, because this is why to do it with Simpler Law.
Yeah.
Because it is so personal and they become friends, really.
Yeah, these Trustpilot reviews say it all. Kerry said, very friendly colleague dealing with my will. It's a very important thing to do, and I was quite nervous about it beforehand, but I made the call, and it was very easy, with a few laughs in there. I've referred family members to the company, and that you couldn't ask for more than that from Kerry.
And we're exactly the same. The amount of friends and families we've referred to Simpler Law. It's just so important to write a will, but it's so important to do it with the right people.
Duncan said this: simple, straightforward, cheaper, and much easier than previous dealings with high street solicitor. And to be honest, Megan gave us more advice. Recommended. That's great, isn't it? In fact, Charlotte, let's talk about the team, because you're all specialists, aren't you?
Yeah.
You all know exactly what you need to know to give that advice.
Yep, this is all that we do.
Yeah.
So we're fully trained, and we like to call it a hand-holding service, because the minute that you've sent the text, made the call, made that first step, we'll deal with everything from there. So we'll book in a consultation at a time that's best for you, in the comfort of your own home, sit in bed, sit on the sofa, cup of tea. And
did you tell us you send out a little guide beforehand?
We do, yes. We send out what we call a welcome pack, so it gives you an idea of what to expect from the consultation, a bit of information about what we'll go through. So if you can have a read of that and jot some things down if you want to, but you don't have to have anything ready. All you need to do is know that you want to make a will.
Yeah.
Great.
And we'll go through it. So when we do the consultation, we'll give you a call And it's just a conversation, like you said, Hayley, all the way through.
And it is. You don't realise that, you know, just through chatting, you get the information. We came with nothing, but you got all the information that you needed from just asking the right questions, really.
Yeah, you might not know it, but you've got all the answers. It's just having that conversation. And we've said it previously, we take you to a dark place for a couple of moments. But apart from that, a lot of clients we speak to actually tend to have a little bit of fun. And you've seen on some of the reviews there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly that.
It's just a conversation. We're getting to know each other. And once we've had that consultation, as we've said, we'll post a document out to you and we will help you sign it as well. So it's a full service, and we're really proud to see those reviews when they're named because it just shows that, you know, we know we're doing a good job. It's nice to hear that you're doing a good job as well.
Yeah.
No, and it makes it very personal. It makes it very easy as well. I think a lot of us put it off because we think it's a bit scary. It's going to be expensive. Tonight you're seeing the prices are incredible, but talking with Charlotte, you just think, well, actually, no, I'd love to sit down with Charlotte and have a little chat. And it's as simple as what we're doing tonight, and that will be done. Like, you won't believe how easy it is.
I think the misconception is when it comes to wills, it's just about money, but you can do so much more with a will.
So much more, yeah. I think unless you've done the research or you've gone through it, you just think it's distribution. It's where you want things to go, but you can do so much more. It's about where you think you might not want things to go. You can put an exclusion in your will.
Right.
You might be estranged from a family member and you don't want them to inherit. But a really big one is with regards to children. So you can state what age children or grandchildren inherit.
I'd never thought of that,
Yeah, so legally children inherit at the age of 18, but most of the clients actually that we speak to move that up to 21.
We're still so young,
25.
aren't we, at 18?
Yeah, we've all been 18. If you've got a lump sum of money,
could be gone by the time
it's gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, a lot of clients tend to increase that age.
Or split it.
Or split
a bit
it.
at 18.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go through all that advice. We give you the advice. It's up to you whether you take it. But on the note of children, guardianship is also a really big part of a will for a lot of clients, because if you've got children under the age of 18, you can actually stipulate a guardianship clause as to who you want to take care of your children if you did pass away before they were of
It's
age.
a horrible thing to think about, but if awfully, and it does happen, both parents died, what would happen to the children if they hadn't written a will and say, I want, you know, my parents to look after the kids? Or
Yeah, you're essentially at that point relying on the right person to step forward, which firstly might not actually be the person you would have chosen.
No, very true.
And secondly, if you've got a close family, and let's say you've got two sets of grandparents that step forward, there might be an argument or a dispute as to who would then want to look after the
grandparents,
children.
sisters, there could be a real upset.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got these two, well, however many children under the age of 18 that have lost their parents, that are then watching their family fall out over who's going to take care of them. And in a really, really worst case scenario, they could become a ward of court if for any reason the families can't agree.
This is all about control.
Yeah, it's just making the choice.
What Charlotte's saying is absolutely spot on, and it might not be the person that steps forward or the people that step forward that put themselves to be guardians. But worse than that, even if it's the right people, someone who's never met you, never met them, never met your family, is ultimately going to be making that decision for you. Yeah, so you've lost control completely.
Taking a chance, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's why I'm passionate about people doing this, because it's not expensive. It's not a hardship speaking to someone like Charlotte, and you could be doing something absolutely amazing for your family. Absolutely amazing, because without it, you have no control whatsoever. If you honestly think that, well, it's okay because my sister knows that the kids are going to go there, it's okay because my eldest knows what I want to happen, I assure you now, I'm telling you now live on TV, none of that is legally binding, and therefore none of that ever happens. And that's a heartbreaking thing. It's all resolvable with a quick phone call or a quick text. And honestly, you will never regret doing this, because it means that you've taken control. It means that your last act on planet Earth, at a time when your family and your loved ones are grieving for you. I'm not saying having a will makes the bereavement easier, but what it does is it definitely doesn't make it harder, because you did something amazing today when you could.
Yeah.
And now no one is under any doubt that, oh, actually they wanted this couple to be guardians. Actually, they did only want their son to get 10% of their estate because of the issues they've had with him, or they didn't want... It's your will. That list that was on the screen, which, okay, is generic about choosing your own executors, the age that children inherit, guardians, even leaving gifts. The running theme through that list is you choose. It's your document, it's your estate, it's your friends, it's your family. If you don't do that, if you choose not to do that tonight, you're making another decision that you might not be fully aware of, but you can't say you're not fully aware of it if you're listening to me now, because I'm telling you, if you don't make your own will, the government will give you one when you pass away.
Yeah. And there is
doesn't care about you.
There is exactly that, isn't it? And I think that a lot of people, we didn't realise that if we haven't written a will, this is the government will. So instantly, if you haven't written a legal will, it then goes to this, doesn't it?
It just asks a series of questions. These rules, these questions were created in 1925, put into legislation 100 years ago when society and family makeups were extremely different to what they are now. But it all starts with a series of yes-no questions until you get to a yes answer, if you like. And the first question that's asked of the deceased is, are you married in a civil partnership? Well, that's an immediate problem for any unmarried couple. You two realise that. You've been together 34 years, but without a will, you're entitled to absolutely nothing from each other's estate.
Isn't it?
There's no provision between unmarried partners.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
So if there's someone watching this now that's been in an even short-term or long-term relationship, but you're not married, I assure you, the government will doesn't care about you and your relationship.
But the frightening
thing
thing
that assumption.
We did.
We'd heard that word, common law.
Yeah, and you do, and we presumed.
Yeah.
But then you think, oh, OK, so I'm married, so I'm going to be OK. But marriages now, lots of people are on a second marriage or a third marriage. Lots of people got children from different families. And you might live as one big happy family and not even see each other as stepbrothers and stepsisters. But even that doesn't work for that, does it?
If you've got different bloodlines, the ultimate distribution can be skewed, and actually, whichever parent passed away first, the chances are that child's going to be disinherited completely. But even before you get there, there's a limit within the rules of intestacy that, depending on the size of your estate, married couples aren't even guaranteed to inherit everything from each other. It's only the first £322,000. So depending on how you own property and where assets are, because again, you know, some people, the money's run a little bit differently. It's not unusual for us to speak to clients and it's like, well, he or she deals with all the money. So the house might be held jointly, or it might just be owned by him or her. And then it's like, well, and all the money's in his account, not in her account. And whilst he says he wants everything to go to his wife, if his estate's worth more than $322,000, he's got children, it starts to get very convoluted very quickly. Only first $322,000 goes to his wife. That might mean the house can't go to it, depending on the value.
Oh, gosh.
And then...
But you can stipulate all that, can't you?
That's the whole point, yeah. Is all that complication and all that heartache and all that, quite frankly, it's unnecessary, can be stopped by, I'll say it again, without being a sycophant, Charlotte and her team are brilliant. But they will give you a will that does what you want to say, not what the government says it should do. Because the government, as is typical when you're dealing with anything like taxation or this kind of thing, it's more convoluted and complicated than it needs to be. But at the same time, I also acknowledge that how do you simplify a default position for every single adult in the UK?
Yeah,
the only way you simplify it is you simplify it for yourself. You make your will and say, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
I'm not having my last act on planet Earth be dictated by a set of rules put in place in 1925. I'm not having the government will. Do something amazing for yourself. Send a text tonight. Speak to one of Charlotte's colleagues right now, because I promise you, you won't regret doing that. But your family may regret if you don't take this opportunity.
It's for yourself, but it's also for your family.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it could tear families apart, couldn't it? Because I couldn't believe that if you are married and the money's passed over to your wife as such, or your husband, or whatever, if they've then got children from each other's marriages before, the person that's died, their children aren't entitled to anything after that. If you haven't written a will, their children aren't entitled to money after they've died if it's then passed on to the other partner.
Years and years and years ago, I was asked to go and see a couple because I'd helped another couple. I went to see a couple and she was lovely, and he was very much of the opinion, we don't need a will. We've been married 20 years. The girls know what we want to happen. I don't know why you're here. And he was very frustrated with his wife that I was there.
Bless.
Which is normal when I walk in. But these people sort of half known to me, and that's why I said I'd go and see him. And all I did is bring out my very dodgy finger puppets and just said, look, the reality is, I said, you've told me that when you both pass away that you want everything to go to each other. So basically, when one of you dies, we call it first death amongst a couple. When one of you dies, you want everything to go to the survivor. He's like, yes. I said, and then on second death, so when you've both passed away, then you want it to go, you've both got daughters from your previous relationship, but you want it to go to the girls in equal shares. He said, yep. He said, and that's what's going to happen. I said, well, that's why I'm here, to make sure it does happen. He said, no, that's what happens now. And I'm like, who's told you that? And I can't remember who he said, but it was like the pub quiz champion, because he said, you know, we're a family now and the girls are treated equally. And I said, no, it follows the bloodline. So the finger pub is where I said, if you passed away yesterday, and rather cruelly I killed him first, I said, if you passed away yesterday, everything would go to your wife. And again, he said, yep. I said, but then when your wife passes away, and this is all without a will, under the rules of intestacy, it follows her bloodline and her bloodline only. It would go to her daughter. And he went, no. And I went, yeah. And this went on for a little while till the penny dropped. And I said, look it up for yourself. I'm not making this up. And he was like,
oh, my
I didn't know.
No.
He said, so, and then all of a sudden it was like, how do we fix that? I said, that's why I'm here, it'll take 10 minutes. So we'll do a will that says you want everything to go to each other, but then when in both wills, because we don't know which one of you is going to pass away first, it'll then say that you want the girls to inherit in equal shares. Is that right? Yeah, great. Thanks for the coffee. But he honestly,
you don't,
he was adamant that they didn't need me or didn't need a will. But when pushed on it, he actually couldn't tell me quite why he believed that.
It's that hope that you speak about. You hope that you hope that what you want to happen is going to happen.
Someone's told you that. Oh, so-and-so told me.
But arrogantly, if you are a professional in a profession, and there are lots of professions out there, it is quite mind-blowing sometimes that someone will tell you that they know more than you. And I'm not being arrogant there. I have to turn to every other profession for help because I know nothing about anything else. But it was quite funny because he was really, really adamant that, no, we don't need a will. Until I actually sort of encouraged him to look it up himself. Just look up the rules of intestacy. And it was like, oh, that is a government. Oh, what I've thought and what I've been told isn't true. And it's like, no. And that's why we've done these shows for the years that we have, is if you're listening to me now, we're telling you that if you don't make your own will, that's why we want you to, you're going to get the government will that doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your family. And if you've got, even if you are married with 2 children together, it still doesn't guarantee that what you want to happen happens. So do something amazing, take control, don't leave it to the government.
No, and do it right now. Do it right now while you've got these incredible prices. It's so simple. You're going to sit down and just have an easy conversation and talk through. You don't need to know any answers right now, because you sit down and have a chat, and you actually get they get the answers from you. You know, you might not even realise how much you can do with a will.
You can't do anything wrong. This is what Hayley was saying when she went through the process with her mum. There's no silly questions.
No,
they're not trying to catch you out with anything. It's about making that process as easy as it possibly can be, and it's so important. It's something that we're all going to use. A will is for everybody, isn't it?
You've worked so hard, haven't you? Whatever you own, whatever, you know, it might be a ring that's really important to you. It might be a family clock that needs to go down the bloodline. You know, whatever it may be. It might be your pets. It may be your children that you want to make sure are looked after if anything awfully happened to you and your partner. You can put all of that into a will. It's bespoke to you. But sadly, I think the thing we don't realise is what we're talking about, that if you haven't got a legally written will, it's no good you telling people what you want to happen, because sadly there is a government will out there and it will instantly go into place if you haven't got a proper will. And sadly and awfully, it's 100 years old, this government will. It's not right for anybody. We should know that, shouldn't we? We should be told that, but we're not told, and we didn't know. We've been together 34 years. I haven't suffered 34 years for not all of his to be mine, but that would have been the case because we're not married. It wouldn't have been mine, and vice versa. And you know, and we try and be light-hearted about it because it is so simple. And you will find when you write your will, it is quite light-hearted because you do sit down and discuss the family, where you want things to go, where you don't want things to go.
We've seen that in some of those reviews, the way people have said, oh, it took a couple of minutes and then we were having a laugh. And, you know, like Hayley says, you make friends with the people you're working
peace of mind that then you've done it. And you won't be in that situation. And obviously, I don't know if this really happens, but can you imagine something's happened, awfully you've passed, and you're looking down on your family falling apart, falling out because they know what you wanted to happen, but it's not happening because the government will hasn't made that happen. And now all of a sudden things are going to places you don't want it to go to, the things that were meant to be yours. aren't yours, and you could have had it all sorted just by, well, as easy as this, just by getting in touch today with these amazing prices. And the amazing thing is, we did think it would be super expensive to write a will.
We were thinking thousands rather than hundreds. So even on the suggested retail price at £209, it's a great price. The offer price, less than £100, but we've got that extra 10% off. Probably won't have it again. We didn't think we'd have it for this show.
It was meant to be £99 tonight, but very kindly, we had a one-off show the last time Simpler Law was with us. They gave us 10% off for that show. Now, that was a one-off show, but because so many people missed the deadline and got in touch with Simpler Law and said, oh, please, can you just do another show? They've agreed to do another show. So your price tonight is £89. That splits to 4 payments of £22.25. That's probably less than you spend on coffee, and that is your will written.
Spend on that and coffee a week, 22.25 easily.
Easily.
And then you've started that process. If you do want to spread the cost, it makes it even easier. So 22.25, as Hayley said, on the will itself. The lasting power of attorney, however, if you want to go for that, £349 is the suggested retail price on that one. It comes down to £199 on the offer, but today it's another 10% off. It comes down to £179. That's £44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. That's the lasting power of attorney.
Now, as you're listening to us, you might think, I'm just going to do the will. I'm just going to do the will, and you secure the will price. But then as you listen to us a little bit longer, and you think, actually, why didn't I do the lasting power of attorney as well? Honestly, as long as you get in touch and secure these deals, if you decide tomorrow or when someone speaks to you, perhaps it might be Monday, and you think, why didn't I do the lasting power of attorney as well? They'll allow you to change to that as long as you secure the prices today. So it should be £558. Should have been tonight £269, but you have got that extra 10% off, going down to £249, and split that cost over 4 payments to £60.50, which is actually just a little bit more than our takeaway for 2.
It's very expensive to get a takeaway near us.
So it's so affordable. This is honestly so affordable. First 250 people will get the book as well, and we'll talk you through the book. But let's just give you the details to get in touch, because you do need to do this. We have got a close of business for this deal on Monday night at 5. However, the phone lines, they're being manned right now, and they'll only be manned during the day, but not the weekend. So what you should just do it now, don't wait, because you'll forget. It'll be Tuesday and you'll think, oh, the offer's finished now. And it's so easy, whichever way you do it tonight.
Ian always says life gets in the way. You get up and things happen, don't they? You get on with your life and it gets in the way. So do it right now. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That'll get you those exclusive offers we've just talked you through. As Hayley said, if you want to call the call centre, the team are there right through till 3 a.m. Now is the time to pick up the phone. 0333 600 2600. But if you've got your phone by you and you don't want to speak to anyone right now, you can text the word will to 66777.
Isn't that so easy? And I love the competitions like that, because it's done in an instant. So all you're doing, you've got the phone right there. Just put will, put the number 66777, go to bed. Go to work. You've done it. You secured the price. You've secured your book if you are the first of those first 250 people, and you've done it without having to speak to anybody. And this book this is another reason to do it right now. This book is brilliant, Ian, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was actually born out of our estate administration department. When you make your own will, you can choose your executors. That's sometimes lay people, so it's your husband, it's your children. Sometimes it's a professional, like we can act as professional executors. And sometimes it's a mixture of both, but again, you choose that. And when we're helping people administer their estates, the same thing has to happen every single time, which is you gather together all the assets and gather together all the estate. And the sort of interesting and at the same time terrifying information that we came across when we were putting this together was there's £5 billion in the UK of unclaimed pension pots.
5 billion.
Wow.
5 billion. With a B. So that's people who have obviously passed away and the families have never found.
And someone should have that. A family should have that. Oh, God.
Likewise, £2 billion, it's believed there is in unclaimed life insurance policies, and £850 million sat in UK bank accounts that just have never been been found.
If all that information's in that book, you
Correct.
know where that pension is that you didn't know about, but it's in there. You know where that bank account is.
It's been received really well because it's well thought through. It complements the will perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, it helps our clients take stock of everything they've got. I often hear Charlotte and her colleagues sort of joking with clients, if you like, because clients are like, "Oh, well, we're making a will, but we haven't got very much." Yeah. And they're like, and that's because they're not selling their family home, and they might have lived there for 30 years. So they'll turn around and say, "Well, we paid 50,000," and it's like, "Well, what do you think it's worth now?" Well, it's worth 300,000. You're like, "Oh, not very much, just a third of a million." Yeah. And it's like, "Well, and I've got £10,000 that's in an ISA, and I've got this pension, and all of a sudden it's like." You're actually, oh, we are, you know, and it's not always about wealth, and wealth is relative. You know, a one-bedroom terrace house is no less valuable than a 10-bedroom mansion to the person that's worked hard to buy it, and it's what you want to do with that. And both of those scenarios, whether it's a one-bedroom terraced house or it's a 10-bedroom mansion, they're going to have the same will if they don't make their own. That's how luminous it is. So. You know, and when you speak to someone like Charlotte or a member of the client care team, we'll be able to advise you accordingly on the size of your estate. We'll be able to give you inheritance tax advice. We'll give you a fully advised service. But at the end of it, whoever you are, whatever your situation is, the end result will be you've got your own will. Yeah. It's your will. It's in your name. It's going to do what you want to do. So you've taken control. But more importantly, you've done something amazing. You've done something really selfless, because you've taken away any burden or any doubt or any confusion over what you want to happen, and you've said, this is what I'm going to do. And the cherry on the cake is you've sideswiped the government will. Yeah. That now doesn't come into play.
And you get what you want.
Yeah.
It's yours. It's your last act on planet Earth, last gift to your family.
Yeah.
And like you said, whatever document you're talking about, if the viewers aren't happy with that document, you don't have to worry about it, do you?
If you speak to Charlotte or a member of the client care team, and at any point throughout the consultation process you're not happy with what we're saying or how it's going, you just turn around and say, this isn't for me, can I have my money back, please? And
how great is that?
Back. Even when you finish when you finish the consultation, we won't do anything for 2 weeks. We'll give you 2 weeks in which you can change your mind even then. Okay. That's how confident we are in what we do. Because once someone's gone through this process, they realise how valuable it is to them.
Definitely.
And of course, at the end of it, then they get a will. But more importantly for me, the fewer people that get the government will, the better. Yeah. The government last year got £5.3 billion in inheritance tax receipts. That's expected to jump exponentially to 7.5, then to 9. And a lot of that is just because people don't know they can take full use of allowances, because you can only know what you know. So it's not just about taking control. It's not just about being selfless. It's about being efficient and making sure that...
And knowing that you do it all the time, so you know what's right, you know how it's going to work out best.
And we don't overcomplicate it. We make sure that you're 100% happy with what we've recommended. Yeah. We'll only draft a document for you when you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given to us, and you're 100% happy with the advice we've given to you. And more importantly, you've understood it, because that's the key. You know, and Charlotte and the team are really good at not just drifting into acronyms and, you know, R&RB, Hayley, don't you?
I would be petrified, but you don't talk like that. You just make it so simple. It's a sit-down conversation, and you'll get what was it, RM, whatever. You'll get that information out of us without even having to ask that question.
Just an additional tax allowance that maybe someone doesn't know about.
And there's so many things that we're clueless about, but you know all the answers.
And the terminology is straightforward and easy, isn't it? So wills, lasting power of attorney, details on the screen there for the combination. However, we're just going to recap before the end of the show, if we can, on lasting powers of attorney, because people have sometimes heard the term, but they don't know what it is. So can you explain, Charlotte, what it is, a lasting power of attorney?
Yeah, so these are documents you hope you never need to use, but you put them in place should the worst happen and you lose your capacity. So if you cannot make your own decisions anymore from a freak accident, it could be ill health, anything where you aren't able to make decisions for yourself, you can nominate who you trust to do that for you in a power of attorney. So whether it be family, whether it be friends, they can then take that document to the bank, to the doctors, wherever they need to go, and make decisions for you on your behalf.
So they basically become you in a financial position. Because two different types of lasting powers of attorney. We talk about the financial first, property and affairs as it's called.
Yeah, the important thing as well with power of attorney is you have to do them now. whilst you've got capacity.
Right, because then
if
it's
you've
too
lost
late, isn't it?
Yeah.
No one
so
can make it for you.
no, exactly.
So if you get dementia, if you have a serious accident and now you haven't got control of it, you can't then...
you can't then put them in place. No. So the best thing is to do it now, put them away, and you know they're there should life throw that curveball and the worst happen. But yeah, you can see on the screen there, you've got the property and financial affair power of attorney. So those people that you've nominated can go down to your bank, access your accounts, pay any bills you've got outstanding, claim any benefits, claim pensions.
That's a massive one, isn't it? Just bills, because nothing stops.
No, that's it.
Exactly.
I think, like I said, recently I've moved house, so it's sort of brought into focus again
Right,
how many
yes.
people you deal with, and you don't think you deal with that many people,
No.
but it's amazing. If you yourself think about the last time you moved house, how many people did you have to contact to say
that
I've
you've
changed
moved.
my address? And quite rightly, we should take for granted throwing the quilt back in the morning and just getting on with our lives and doing what we need to do. But if life threw you that curveball and you couldn't throw the quilt back one morning, who would step into your shoes and deal with everything that you ordinarily
And you'd
deal
presume as a wife or a daughter or that you could do that and go and sort all these things out. But obviously you can't, because you can't actually do that when they're well.
Exactly, yeah. If you went down to someone's bank now or any institution and said, I need to access this account, the first thing they say is, are you the account holder?
Yeah.
They do data protection with you. And if you're not the account holder,
Got no
that's
chance.
it. Yeah, and if someone's lost their capacity, they're vulnerable, that's only even worse. So, again, it's that myth and the hope that you just don't think about it, do you? It's one of those things, I'll be able to do that, but where have you got that from?
Yeah.
Why do you think that? That's why we do these shows, is to try and make you sit back and think.
Put the information out there.
Yeah, definitely, because these are so important, and a lot of clients that come and put these in place have probably witnessed it through a family or friend.
Yes.
So they've come to us and seen it themselves firsthand and know the importance of them at that point.
That's why we did it for Mum, the lasting power of attorney, because you saw a situation where it had all gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Because it is too late if you haven't got it in place right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's two different kinds, isn't there?
Yep, so the other document is health and welfare. So this one's a bit more personal. You can have the same people as on your financial document, you can have different, so you've got that option. A lot of clients will say, my son's better at my health, my daughter's better at my finances.
That's true,
So you can,
yeah.
again, it's your choice. That's why these documents are important to put in place now. But the health power of attorney means that person can decide where you're living.
I think this is just as important.
It is, because it's
really
so personal. Your loved ones really going to know these answers. So they can decide if they want you to be at home with them. They can decide which care home you're in, what you're eating, what you're wearing.
And those things are so important, especially if you're a vegetarian or... And I think the thing that we do get, and I know we were bad for this, thinking as you get older you need this, but actually my friend was in a terrible accident in her 40s. We need this from our younger ages, don't we? Because we just don't know what's around the corner.
I mean, the age of 18 onwards.
Yeah.
The youngest diagnosis of dementia, sadly, in the UK now is in the 20s.
Gosh.
Yeah. So whilst it's exceptional,
It's...
yeah, the thing is, you never know. That's the reality. We always bang the drum for plan for the worst and hope for the best, and this is all this is planning.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we plan for lots of little things that we know are foreseeable. Weirdly, we don't plan for the inevitable, which is why we would encourage you to make a will, because, you know, that is going to be read. But with a lasting power of attorney, it's more a what-if document.
Yes.
What if life did throw you that curveball? Well, the only time you can actually plan for it is today, because you can't do anything yesterday, you can't do anything tomorrow. So if you're thinking about it, you do it today and then hope you never need it. You know, and whilst I stress that it's not an insurance policy, because it's not, you know, there are lots of things that we protect with the what-if scenario. You know, Mum will insure a dishwasher that she doesn't use.
For years, yeah.
And I've insured I think a tumble dryer that we've not had for...
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Because again, when we moved out, I went through the bank going,
We don't, why are we doing that?
What
is that?
Yeah, so cancel that. So, you know, and it's easily done, but we will protect things that we think are important to us, because, you know, we need a boiler to work. We certainly insure things like our pets against vet bills and things like that. Lots of people protect the phones and the tablets and all this kind of thing. And then at the bottom of that list tends to be us and our family and our loved ones, which, let's be honest, if you said to someone what's more important to you, your life or your health, you know, or your loved ones or your boiler,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to think it'd be you and your family.
And the thing I didn't realise, because like I say, I always thought, you know, it's your elderly relatives you get the lasting power of attorney for. But as a couple, again, you'd presume you could look after your loved one if something happened to them. But even if you're married, which we're not married, so again, we've got no entitlements anywhere. But if you were married, and even if you had joint accounts, if one of you was poorly, everything's very much frozen, isn't it? Which is people won't realise that.
Different to the will. This, you know, unmarried couples and married couples are basically treated the same.
Right.
As individuals, you've not got a right over each other's accounts.
No.
You know, that's something that people don't fully realise until it's too late.
Yeah.
But you're quite right. Some people might be sat there going, "It's okay because I've got a joint account."
Still be, yeah.
But jointly held assets, you've both got to have capacity to access the jointly held assets.
People won't realise that. No. So all of a sudden you can't pay the bills, even though it's your money in that account.
If you needed to, let's say that sadly your wife becomes incapacitated, and let's say she needs care, and that means you're in a house that you don't want to be in, and maybe you want to downsize or whatever it might be, but you can't sell that house now because it's in both of your names.
Yes.
And she can't sign for it, so someone has to get power to do that. And like I said, the saddest thing is all of this comes to fruition and realisation when it's then actually too late to set up a lasting power of attorney. And that's the problem. That's why you really should consider doing this, because it's a really selfless thing to do, but you'll never know how important it might be for you and your family. My wife and I have had lasting powers of attorney in place for over 18 years, and touch wood, hope that we'll never need to use them.
Yes.
But they're there.
Yeah.
They're there in case.
And you do it and you just forget about it because
we never made it thinking, oh, I hope we use these.
Yeah, no.
But we did it, practicing what I preach, planning for the worst, hoping for the best. The signed, the dated, the witnessed, the validated, they just need to be registered with the Office of the Public Guardian, and each of us can act to each other, and we've got two attorneys who are also going to step in and act.
And what does that mean, what you just said about the registration with the Public Guardian?
So the lasting power of attorney has to be registered with a body called the Office of Public Guardian. Now, they may charge a registration fee depending on your personal situation at the time, but compared to the fees that the Court of Protection would charge, the minimal, it's either free, £41 or £82. You contrast that to what's on the screen. If you don't have a lasting power of attorney, your loved ones or someone that you may not want to manage your affairs can go to the Court of Protection, but you can see the kind of money they have to pay there.
And they have, you know, you have to pay that. You can't get that from your loved one that's poorly. You've got to find that money to try and look after them.
You've got to basically do all of this yourself and put yourself forward, and then put yourself, it sounds a little bit melodramatic, but at the mercy of the court for them to say, yes, we think your motives are actually true and honest, and therefore we will grant you a deputyship order. But that can take up to a year to get done, so all that time...
On top of all that cost, it's all the time.
And that could be too late a year. Your loved one might...
When you speak to loved ones, the time and the court process is actually worse than the money. The money's bad enough.
Yeah.
And especially if you've got to use a professional on top of that, the costs can run into £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 quite easily, and then still you're not guaranteed to be granted the deputyship order at the end of it. But if you make a lasting power of attorney
Oh my word!
If I said I wanted you three to be my attorneys, and I created a lasting power of attorney now, we got it signed, dated, and witnessed correctly, registered with the Office of Public Guardian. That's it.
Done.
It's done. And you don't have to answer to anyone, because I made it clear today, whilst I had capacity, that I trusted you three. I mean, I don't, but I trusted you three to manage my affairs. You know exactly what I'm saying. And
that's it.
So, you know, sometimes our clients, Charlotte made a point earlier, sometimes our clients, you know, it's quite hilarious. They'll say, well, we've got 4 children. We feel bad about leaving one of them out, but we love him to bits, but he's mad as a box of frogs. We don't trust him with anything.
Bless.
But that's again, it's your choice. It's your document.
It's all bespoke. It's all your choice. It's all what you want, and the only way to do it is to actually do it this way.
The biggest thing that we want to get out of this show is that after you've spoken to Charlotte or a member of our client care team, at the end of it, the documents that you get, whatever you've chosen to do, they're your documents. They suit your situation. They're right for you. And more importantly, when it comes to a will, goodbye government will, that's no longer needed. You've superseded that, which is amazing. If it comes to a lasting power of attorney, your family don't need to worry about the process of going through the court of protection because you did something amazing today.
And you did it so affordably tonight, and it's only for tonight that you've got these extra special deals. You've got an extra 10% off. It was a one-off show the last time Simpler Law was with us because lots of people missed out because there is a deadline to this offer and said, please, next show, can you still do that extra 10% off? They've kindly done it. So these prices, grab them whilst we have the opportunity. You've got massive savings, so affordable, because we thought, though we just kept putting a will off because you just think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, and we did think it'd be really expensive, and it's just not.
Well, even on the suggested price at £209 for a will, it's brilliant, but it's down on the offer price to less than 100, and with the extra special discount we've got tonight, the extra 10% off, £89. Do remember, these are only valid till close of business on Monday, but we would say get in touch right now, start that ball rolling.
And £22.25. I mean, if you buy coffees, how many coffees would you get for that? I mean, it's such a little cost for something that is so important.
Depending where you go,
what you've worked so hard for, you know it's going to go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What you've worked so hard for, you know it's going to go to who you want it to go to for just 4 payments of £22.25. There is no reason not to do this. And of course, you're just securing these deals tonight. Lasting power attorney that we've just been speaking about, £349 is the regular price. Should have been tonight £199, but very kindly we've been given that extra 10% off, so £179 is your price this evening. And again, you split 4 payments. £44.75 is the first of those 4 payments. But I think a lot of people, after you've watched a show, you might have already been in touch and you said you wanted the will, and now you're thinking, oh, I wish I'd done both. I know they will if you've secured the deals tonight. So it's OK, you can add on the lasting power of attorney because you've got a huge saving there.
They'll honour the offer and honour those prices that we've got for you. It should be £558, saving more than you're spending here. It comes down to £269, no, £242, because you've got another 10% off. Who knows if we'll do these prices again. We weren't supposed to have them tonight. 242 comes down to £60.50 on your first of 4 interest-free
And again, when you think what you spend on takeaways, it's such a little cost for something so important.
Really
now, another reason to do it right now is you will forget, and it'll be too late. The offers will have gone up. So do it right now so you've secured the deal, and then you can sort out a day to talk to them when it's right for you. You might be going away for 2 weeks or a month even. They'll sort out a day that's right for you to sit down and talk about it. But the first 250 people will also get this book secured, and this is a brilliant book.
Yeah, it's basically you secure all your information in here. So it's all in that one place, whether it's pensions, whether it's council taxes and bills, vehicles, pets, what you want to happen to your pets, memberships to clubs, digital accounts and passwords. It can all be in that one place. The first 250 clients who secure those offers will get that. It should be £25. So
and often a lot of people do miss out. Yes. So can we buy it? It's £25. You'll be getting that if you're securing those deals tonight. So just secure those deals. Get the book, get the deals and prices, frozen for you. And it's so easy to do. I mean, you don't even need to speak to anybody tonight if you don't want to.
No, you can go to the website, first of all, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. The team are in the call centre right now, 0333 600 2600. Don't need any documents, just need to answer a couple of questions, name, address, what you're interested in, basically. Or you can text.
That's the easiest way, isn't it? And it's always so busy. But how simple, before you go to bed or before perhaps you're dashing out to work, perhaps you're up to go to work, just text Will to 66777. You've taken that first step to do something that could be life-changing for your family. Stop the family falling out. You know what you want to happen to what you've worked for so hard. And don't let it all go horribly wrong because you didn't write a will, because there is the government will there. Just text Will. It's as simple as that. And you've sorted it all out today. It will be one of the best things I think you've ever done. Ian always says, no one ever regrets writing a will. They've done the will and think, oh, dear, wish I hadn't done that. It's like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, there's nothing to regret, and it's such an amazing thing that you can only know how truly amazing it is. And amazing sounds quite melodramatic, doesn't it? It's only a will, but it's your family, and it's everything you've worked hard for, and it's taking control. And after you've spoken to a member of our client care team, you might find something out that you didn't know before, where you're even more astounded that I am so glad I did that. And that's why I say no one regrets it, because there's nothing to regret. You know, it's not my mullet when I was 18 with acne and a double chin and a big nose. It's like, I'll tell you what I'll do to improve this look. I'll grow a mullet. That was regrettable looking back. But on a serious note, you're not going to regret having these documents in place, because the reality is your family might regret that you didn't do them. That's the truth of it.
And it's so important to do them properly and to do them with a company like Simpler Law.
We're insured for everything that we do. We carry professional indemnity insurance for up to £5 million. So if we make a mistake, and touch wood, we never have. Don't know why I'm touching glass. if we make a mistake, you're insured for up to £5 million. But the fact of the matter is, people like Charlotte and her team, our client care team, that's all they do day in, day out. That's what they specialise in. So you don't come to us for any other area of the law. We're not interested in divorce, boundary disputes, personal injury claims. But if it comes to you, your loved ones, everything you've worked hard for, we're going to be able to help you, and we're going to be able to give you advice on that.
And Shayley, is that hand-holding service? You literally talk everyone through everything they need to know.
Yeah, that's what we pride ourselves on, because you see the Trustpilot reviews where they are named.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is given that personal experience. And from the minute you make that first step by saying, you know, texting or calling, I want to make a will, I want to make a power of attorney, we'll do all of the rest for you. You've got the answers, it's just a conversation, comfort of your own home, cup of tea.
Brilliant.
And that's all you need to know. You don't need anything else.
We have all the questions that you possibly don't know, and believe you me, you have all the answers.
You do.
And it is just a sit down and a chat like it's been tonight, which is always such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been lovely to have your company as always.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. If you do want to get these deals, now is the time to take that first step to get the ball rolling. It's so easy to get in touch as well. You saw all the details are there for you on the screen.
Just text Will to 66777. It's done. You've secured the price. The extra 10% off is only for this show. And remember, there is a deadline, which is Monday, but you'll have forgotten if you don't do it today. We know what it's like. And the truth of the matter is, and none of us realise this, I think lots of us don't realise this, that if you don't write a proper will yourself with a team like Simpler Law,
it's out of your hands then.
Yeah, there is a will for you.
The rules of intestacy take
the
over.
The government will.
Yep.
And would you want the government to actually tell your family where everything's going when they knew what you really wanted to happen, and then all of a sudden the government will is 100 years old. It's not right for anybody at all.
And all
you
you've
won't
got
want
to do
that.
is write down your own wishes. So whether it's a will, whether it's a lasting power of attorney, or whether it's the combination that you see there on screen, which is the biggest saving of all coming with that extra 10% off, but only until close of business on Monday, we would say get in touch right now.
Yeah, do. And if you forget, oh gosh, I forgot what I should do, texting is your best thing. So it's Will, and all you need to do is text that right now to 66777. But if you do completely forget, go onto our website, scroll down the page to the middle, and then you've got Simpler Law. Just click onto that, and it'll take you straight through. Yeah. It'll be one of the best things you ever do. It's your last gift to your loved ones. So important. And please don't be looking down regretting that, why didn't I actually listen to Hayley and Sean for once? So, you know, honestly, it will be one of the... This is the best time to listen to us, because it will be one of the best things you ever do.
So get in touch, take that first step, and see what a difference it can make for you. We'll see you later.
See you later.